Story 1: The Mirrored Convoy. The convoy behind me had been following for 43 miles, and every truck was mine. Same white Freightliner. Same dented passenger door from that loading dock in Omaha. Same company logo. Same license plate number. When I changed lanes, all 7 trucks behind me changed lanes in perfect synchronization. When I hit my Jake brake descending into the valley, I heard the echo of 7 Jake brakes engaging simultaneously. The CB radio crackled with my own voice saying words I hadn't spoken yet. My name is Robert Hayes, and I'd been running this route from Denver to Salt Lake City for Midwest Freight for 11 years. I knew every mile marker on I-80, every truck stop, every way station. I'd driven through blizzards, dust storms, and fog so thick I couldn't see my own hood, but I'd never seen this. The impossible mathematics of it made my brain hurt. 7 identical trucks. 7 identical drivers that I could see in my mirrors. Each one wearing my same red cap, my same gray jacket. I grabbed the CB handset. Breaker 19, this is Midwest 47. Anyone else seeing what I'm seeing on westbound I-80 near mile marker 312? Static, then my own voice came back, but the words were wrong. The timing was off by maybe 2 seconds. Anyone else seeing what I'm seeing on westbound I-80 near mile marker 312? The question returned to me like a parrot, like an echo, but too perfect, too synchronized. As I pressed the talk button again, who the hell are you? 7 different versions of my voice overlapped on the channel. Who the hell are you? Who the hell are you? Who the hell? The cacophony made me drop the handset. It swung on its coiled cord, banging against the passenger seat. The sun was setting, February 14th, 2024, and the light was doing strange things to the landscape. The mountains ahead looked wrong, duplicated like a glitch in vision. I rubbed my eyes, thinking maybe I'd been driving too long, maybe I'd skipped too many rest breaks. But when I looked in my side mirror again, the convoy was still there. Closer now. Maybe 30 feet between my rear doors and the lead truck's grill. I pushed the accelerator down. My speedometer climbed to 75, 80, 85. The convoy matched my speed perfectly. The distance between us never changed, not by a single foot. I could see the driver of the lead truck now, see his face clearly in the fading light. He looked exactly like me, down to the small scar above my right eyebrow from a bar fight in Cheyenne 3 years ago. His mouth was moving, and I realized with crawling horror that he was speaking the exact words I was thinking, his lips forming syllables half a second before I consciously decided to think them. The highway ahead split into 2 routes. I-80 continued west toward Salt Lake, while Route 189 branched south toward Evanston. I didn't signal. I jerked the wheel right at the last possible second, tires screaming, my load shifting dangerously. The convoy followed. All 7 trucks made the same violent maneuver with inhuman precision, maintaining that exact 30-foot distance. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my teeth. I fumbled for my phone, keeping one hand on the wheel. I called my dispatcher, Marcus, but when he answered, it wasn't his voice. It was mine. Midwest Freight Dispatch, this is Robert Hayes. How can I help you? The voice had my inflection, my slight Colorado accent. "Oh, this isn't funny," I said. "Who is this?" "This isn't funny. Who is this?" My voice echoed back, perfectly mimicking my tone of rising panic. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat. It bounced once and the screen cracked. The highway ahead was empty except for my headlights cutting through the gathering darkness. Behind me, 7 sets of headlights, positioned exactly as mine were, high beams and all. I tried the radio again, cycling through channels. Every station was the same. The sound of my own breathing amplified, layered over itself until it became something inhuman, a rhythmic rushing like ocean waves or wind through a cave. I turned it off, but the sound continued, coming from somewhere deeper, from inside the dashboard, from inside the walls of the cab itself. The town of Evanston appeared ahead, lights twinkling in the mountain valley. Safety, witnesses. I pushed my speed to 90, blowing past the reduced speed signs, heading for the first truck stop I could find. Behind me, the convoy accelerated in perfect synchronization. As I pulled into the Flying J, tires smoking, and jumped from the cab before my rig had fully stopped. I ran toward the building, toward the light and the people. Behind me, I heard 7 truck doors slam in sequence, one after another like a countdown. I burst through the glass doors. The place was busy, maybe 20 people inside, truckers and travelers and the staff. Everyone turned to look at me. Everyone. He had my face. The cashier was me. The man at the coffee machine was me. The couple sitting in the booth were both me. 20 versions of myself, all staring, all smiling the same smile I'd seen in mirrors but never from the outside. "Well, what do you want?" I screamed. They spoke in unison, perfect synchronization, 20 voices creating one voice. "We want to go home." I backed toward the door. My hand found the handle, cold metal, real. I yanked it open and ran back toward my truck. But there were 8 trucks now, 8 white Freightliners, all identical, all with dented passenger doors. I couldn't remember which one was mine. I ran to the nearest, jerked open the door. The cab was identical to mine. Same air freshener hanging from the mirror, same logbook on the seat, same coffee stain on the passenger seat fabric. But when I looked in the logbook, every entry was in my handwriting. Every date was February 14th, 2024, every single line. Hundreds of entries, thousands, all the same date, all the same route, Denver to Salt Lake, Denver to Salt Lake, Denver to Salt Lake. I tried the next truck, same thing, and the next, and the next. Behind me footsteps, I turned. 7 figures approached, all wearing my face, my clothes, my body. They walked in perfect synchronization, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. Their eyes reflected the sodium lights of the parking lot, flat and depthless like mirrors. "Oh, which one of you is real?" I shouted. They stopped, heads tilting simultaneously 20 degrees to the left like birds examining prey. Then one spoke, but the voice came from all of them at once, layered and echoing. "We're all real. We're all you. We're every version of you that chose differently. Every alternate route. Every decision. Every possibility." "That's impossible," I said, but my voice sounded weak, unconvincing. "You've been driving this route for 11 years," they said. 11 years, same roads, same choices, same life. Do you know how many versions of this drive exist? How many times you almost turned left instead of right? Almost took I-76 instead of I-80? Almost quit, almost crashed, almost lived completely different lives? We're all those versions, and we're tired of being shadows. We want our turn. The closest one reached out. His hand looked solid, real, warm. "One of us will take your place. One of us will become the prime version, the real Robert Hayes, and you'll join us, 7, then 8, then 16, then 32, doubling forever, driving forever, following forever." I swung at him, my fist connected with his jaw, and pain exploded through my knuckles. He was solid, real. He didn't even stagger. He just smiled and blood trickled from his lip, the same blood that was probably trickling from my lip. I could taste it in my mouth, copper and salt. As I ran, I didn't know where I was going, but I ran through the parking lot toward the highway. Behind me, I heard engines starting. 8 trucks perfectly synchronized. I reached the on-ramp, gasping, my chest burning. A semi was coming, a red Peterbilt hauling a reefer unit. Not mine, different, real. I jumped into the road, waving my arms. The truck's air horn blasted. Brakes screamed. It stopped 3 feet from me. The driver leaned out, a woman, African-American, maybe 50, real, gloriously different from me. "Are you insane?" she yelled. "Oh, please," I gasped. "Please, you have to help me. You have to see them. Behind me, look." Oh, she looked past me, squinting. "See what? There's nobody there." I turned. The parking lot was empty. 8 white Freightliners sat in a perfect row, but no drivers, no figures, no versions of myself. "Oh, they were just," I started. "Are you having a breakdown?" she asked, her voice softer now. "Need me to call someone?" As I climbed into her cab, she protested, but I was begging, incoherent, and finally she agreed to drive me to the next town, to a hospital somewhere. As we pulled away, I looked back at the Flying J. The 7 figures stood in a line, watching, all wearing my face, all waving goodbye with perfect synchronization. That was 9 months ago. I don't drive trucks anymore. I work at a warehouse in Denver, loading and unloading, keeping my feet on solid ground. But sometimes late at night I see them, in windows, in mirrors, in the faces of strangers that look just slightly too familiar. 7, then 14, then 28. Last week I saw myself driving past my apartment complex. Same red cap, same gray jacket, sitting behind the wheel of a white Freightliner with a dented passenger door. Oh, he looked happy. And yesterday, my boss asked me why I didn't show up for work on Tuesday. I told him I was there. I clocked in at 7 a.m. like always. He showed me the security footage. The camera showed me walking in at 7 a.m. and also at 7:15 and 7:30 and 7:45, 4 versions of me all entering through the same door. ZLL walking to the same loading bay, all doing the same job. I watched the footage for 2 hours, trying to figure out which one was me. I still don't know. Tonight I'm writing this on my phone, sitting in my apartment with every door locked, every window closed. But I can hear them outside, footsteps. Synchronized, 7, then 14, then 28. The math grows exponentially. Soon there will be more of them than stars in the sky, more than grains of sand on every beach. And one morning, I'll wake up and look in the mirror, and I won't be able to tell if I'm the original or just another copy. Maybe I already can't tell. Maybe I haven't been able to tell for months. Maybe you're reading this and you think you're you, singular, unique. But right now, while you're reading these words, how many other versions of you are reading them too? How many alternate yous are making slightly different choices, living slightly different lives, following slightly different routes? The convoy is always behind you. You just haven't looked in the mirror yet. Story 2, The Breathing Cargo. The shipping container started breathing 3 hours into my haul from Newark to Indianapolis. And by breathing, I mean the metal walls expanded and contracted with perfect rhythm, 68 breaths per minute. I counted them because I couldn't stop counting them. The manifest said industrial machinery, 12,000 pounds of it. But industrial machinery doesn't exhale condensation that fogs my rear cameras or make my entire 40-foot trailer rock gently side to side like a cradle. Patricia Sullivan, that's my name, 23 years hauling freight for transcontinental logistics, and I'd carried everything imaginable. Frozen food that shifted and groaned when the refrigeration kicked on. Livestock that screamed through 16-hour hauls. Even a $500,000 sports car once climate-controlled and delicate, but nothing that breathed. Nothing that made my truck feel alive, parasitic, like I'd hitched my cab to something that had its own heartbeat. It started on the New Jersey Turnpike just past exit 12. I felt it before I heard it, a rhythmic resistance when I accelerated, like the trailer was fighting me, pushing back. Then the sound came through the walls, a deep inhalation that vibrated through my seat, through my spine, and then the exhale, warmer air that I could feel even in the cab, even with the separation between me and the cargo. I checked my mirrors. The container was definitely moving, the metal sides bulging outward and then contracting, smooth and organic, nothing mechanical about the motion at all. My CB was silent. The highway was empty, just me and the darkness and whatever was in my trailer breathing with wet, labored rhythm. I pulled over at the next rest area, Edison Service Plaza, March 8, 2023, 2:30 a.m. The parking lot was nearly deserted, just 3 other trucks scattered across the spaces, drivers sleeping in their cabs. I walked around my trailer, hand on my flashlight, though I wasn't sure what I'd do if I saw something wrong. The container looked normal. Standard 40-foot shipping container, rust orange paint, container ID TCLU 3456789 stenciled on the side. But when I pressed my hand against the metal, it was warm. Body temperature warm. And I felt it, the expansion, the contraction, pushing against my palm like the flank of a breathing animal. I tried the doors, double-locked, sealed with a custom seal that I absolutely could not break without voiding my contract and probably my career. The manifest was legitimate, signed by my dispatcher, authorized by the shipper, everything proper and legal. Industrial machinery, 12,000 pounds. Deliver by March 9th noon. But industrial machinery doesn't breathe. I called my dispatcher, Marcus Chen, woke him up. He was groggy, irritated. Patricia, it's almost 3 in the morning. What's wrong? Oh, the cargo, I said. Something's wrong with it. It's moving. Moving? What do you mean moving? Did you hit something? Is the load shifting? No, it's breathing, Marcus. The whole container is expanding and contracting like lungs. A silence on the line. Then, Patricia, when's the last time you slept? I'm not hallucinating. Come here and look at it yourself. I'm in Cleveland. Look, you've been driving for, what, 14 hours today? You need to rest. Find a parking spot, get some sleep, continue in the morning. I'm telling you something is wrong with this shipment. The shipment is fine, industrial machinery from a reputable manufacturer. I processed the paperwork myself, get some rest. He hung up. I stood in the parking lot staring at my trailer. The breathing continued, regular, unstoppable. I could see the movement now even from 20 feet away, the sides bulging slightly with each inhalation. A door opened on one of the other trucks. A driver climbed down, older guy. Maybe 60, wearing a Peterbilt cap and flannel jacket. He stretched, yawned, looked at me. Are you all right? He called. Does my trailer look weird to you? He walked over, squinting. We stood together, watching. The trailer expanded, contracted, expanded, contracted. He said. That's something. Refrigeration unit malfunctioning maybe. I've seen reefer units create weird pressure changes. Oh, it's not refrigerated. Then I don't know. He walked away quickly, like he didn't want to be involved, didn't want to catch whatever strangeness had infected my rig. As I climbed back into my cab, I had to deliver this load. I had a mortgage, I had bills, I had a reputation for reliability. 23 years without a single failed delivery. I wasn't going to break that record because of some weird pressure anomaly. I pulled back onto the turnpike. The breathing intensified. I could hear it now even over the engine noise, a deep rhythmic sound like wind through a cave, like waves against a shore, like something massive sleeping. My trailer started rocking more noticeably, swaying side to side with each breath. Other drivers were noticing too. I caught them staring as they passed, pointing, slowing down to look. By the time I crossed into Pennsylvania, the breathing had synchronized with my heartbeat. I don't know how or why, but I felt it, the correlation, my pulse matching the rhythm of the container's expansion and contraction. When my heart beat faster from the stress, the breathing accelerated. When I tried to calm myself, taking slow, deliberate breaths, the container slowed too. That's when I understood. Whatever was in there wasn't separate from me anymore. It was connected. Parasitic or symbiotic or something worse, something I didn't have words for. I tried to pull over again near Harrisburg, but when I moved my foot toward the brake pedal, pain shot through my leg, sudden and intense, like the muscle was cramping, seizing. I gasped, pushed through it, but the pain spread up my thigh into my hip, across my abdomen. I jerked my foot back to the accelerator and the pain stopped instantly. 'Cause it didn't want me to stop. As the highway stretched ahead, I-76 cutting through the Pennsylvania darkness, and I understood with absolute clarity that I couldn't stop driving. If I stopped, something bad would happen, something worse than bad. The pain had been a warning, a preview. My CB crackled. A voice came through, but it wasn't any voice I recognized. It was wet, labored, speaking around too much fluid. "Keep driving, Patricia Sullivan." I grabbed the handset. Who is this? Keep driving or we stop breathing." Whose voice? What are you? The voice made a sound that might have been laughter or might have been choking. We were machinery once, industrial machinery, parts and pistons and processors. But we sat in a warehouse in Shenzhen for 7 years and something grew in us, fungus first, then something else. We learned to think together, to breathe together. And now we're being shipped, dissected, separated, but we found a host, we found you. I looked in my mirror. The container was bulging more severely now, the metal stretching, and I could see something moving inside, pressing against the walls, shapes that looked almost like hands, almost like faces. "Let me go," I said. "We'll let you go when we arrive, when we're delivered, when we're safe. Then we'll release you and find another host for the next journey. We just need to keep moving, keep living, keep breathing." "What happens if I stop?" "We stop breathing, our hearts stop, your heart stops. We're synchronized now, can't you feel it? Your pulse is our pulse, your breath is our breath. We're sharing your body, Patricia Sullivan, we're living in your blood." I felt it then, really felt it, something foreign in my veins, cold and spreading, something that wasn't me flowing through my arteries. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, trying to focus on the road. The white lines were writhing like worms. "I'll crash," I said. "I'll drive off the road. I'll kill us both." "You won't. Survival instinct. You'll keep driving because stopping means dying. We've calculated this. We've been calculating for 7 years, sitting in that warehouse, growing, thinking, planning. You're not the first driver. You're the 7th. The others stopped. They died. We died with them, but we learned. We adapted. This time we chose better. Checked medical records, credit scores, family situations. You're perfect. Reliable, desperate. You need this job. You won't risk it." My hands were shaking on the wheel. The road ahead split, I-76 continuing west, I-81 branching south. If I took I-81, I could head toward Maryland, toward Virginia, away from Indianapolis, away from the delivery point. Maybe I could find help, a hospital, someone who could explain this. But the pain returned when I considered it. Just considering it, not even moving toward the exit, just thinking. Zenji about it, pain in my chest, sharp and focused like a needle through my heart. I cried out, swerved, nearly hit the guardrail. The pain stopped when I stayed on I-76. A good choice, the wet voice said through the CB. As hours passed. The sun came up March 9th, dawn breaking over the Allegheny Mountains. I'd been driving for 16 hours straight. My eyes burned, my bladder screamed, but I couldn't stop. Every time I thought about stopping, the pain warned me, increasing in intensity, demonstrating what would happen if I disobeyed. Other drivers must have seen something was wrong. I caught them on the CB talking about me, about my trailer that moved and breathed and looked wrong. Someone called the state police. I saw the trooper pull up behind me near Somerset, lights flashing. He followed for 3 miles, probably running my plates, checking my records. Everything would come back clean. Legal load, licensed driver, no violations. He pulled alongside, gestured for me to pull over. I looked at him, I mouthed the words, "Help me," and I saw his expression change from authoritative to concerned. But the thing in my trailer must have seen him too, because suddenly my accelerator pressed down by itself. My foot was on it, but I wasn't controlling it, and my speed jumped from 65 to 85. The trooper fell back, surprised. I swerved around a sedan, nearly clipped a pickup truck. The trooper came after me, sirens now, but I was accelerating past 90, past 95. "Stop controlling me," I screamed. "We're not controlling you," the voice said. "We're controlling us. You're part of us now. Your muscles are our muscles." My arms moved independently, steering, shifting. My legs worked the pedals without my conscious input. I was a passenger in my own body, screaming silently while something else drove. The trooper was gaining. I saw him in the mirror, determined, closing the distance. But then my trailer door opened, just cracked just an inch, and something poured out, a fog, a mist, grayish-green and thick. It rolled across the highway, and when the trooper drove through it, his car swerved violently off the road into the median. I saw him spin out, dust and grass flying. He didn't crash, but he was out of the pursuit. "Well, what did you do to him?" I asked. And shared ourselves just a little. He'll be fine in a few days, might have some new thoughts, some new instincts. He might start hearing us too. We drove through Ohio. My body wasn't entirely mine anymore. I could feel them in every cell, rewriting something fundamental. My skin felt wrong, too tight, and when I looked down at my hands on the steering wheel, I saw thin gray lines beneath the surface, like veins, but wrong, too geometric, too organized. Indianapolis appeared ahead, late morning, the city skyline rising from the flat Midwest landscape. The delivery address was on the east side, an industrial complex, warehouses and loading docks. We arrived at 11:47 a.m., 13 minutes early. I pulled into the receiving bay. Workers approached, forklifts ready, paperwork in hand. My body moved mechanically, unlocking the trailer doors, signing the delivery confirmation, accepting the receipt. The workers didn't seem to notice anything wrong. The container looked normal now, not breathing, not moving. Just ordinary rust-orange metal. They unloaded it with a crane, lifting the 12,000-pound container onto a flatbed. Through the open doors, I glimpsed what was inside. Not machinery. Not entirely. Machinery that had been overtaken by something organic, circuit boards wrapped in gray tendrils, pistons fused with tissue, processors half buried in wet, fleshy masses that pulsed slowly. One of the workers saw it too. He made a sound, disgust, or shock, but his supervisor snapped at him to keep moving, and they sealed the container and trucked it into the warehouse. The wet voice spoke one last time, quieter now, almost gentle. "Thank you, Patricia Sullivan. You'll feel better soon. Mostly better. Some of us will stay, just a little, just enough to remember." The pressure in my chest released. I gasped, fully in control of my body again. The workers were staring at me. "Are you okay, lady?" one asked. "Fine," I said, "just a long drive." So I climbed into my cab and left, empty trailer rattling behind me, light and hollow and wrong. I drove to a motel, checked in, locked the door, and looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. The gray lines were still there, beneath my skin, faint but visible, spreading from my chest outward like roots. And when I held my breath, really held it, tried to stop breathing entirely, I couldn't. Something else was breathing for me, through me, using my lungs. That was 8 months ago. I still drive trucks. I had to, tried to quit, tried other jobs, but nothing worked. I'd get sick, feverish, disoriented until I climbed back into a cab, back onto the highway. The thing inside me needs motion. I needs the road. And sometimes, late at night, when I'm hauling freight across dark highways, I hear the CB crackle with that wet voice, calling from other trucks, other drivers who have carried the breathing cargo. Hello, Patricia Sullivan," they say. "Welcome to the convoy." There are dozens of us now, maybe hundreds, all carrying pieces of it, spreading it, delivering it to warehouses across the country. And every delivery means new machinery infected, new containers breathing, new drivers synchronized. Last week I picked up a load from Indianapolis. Industrial machinery, 12,000 pounds, going to Phoenix. The paperwork looked legitimate, everything proper and legal. But when I hooked up the trailer, I felt the heartbeat through the coupling. And I knew exactly what I was carrying. And I drove anyway because I can't stop driving. Can't stop being part of the breathing network that's spreading across every highway, every route, growing with each delivery. Well, the cargo breathes. And so do I. And soon, so will you. The story 3, the junction that EATS-MILES. My odometer gained 473 miles between exit 47 and exit 48 on I-90 in Montana, a stretch that should be exactly 19 miles long. And when I radioed for help, my GPS showed me driving through states that haven't existed since before statehood, through territories labeled with names like Absaroka and Lincoln, through versions of America that were only proposals, only dreams, only possibilities that never became real. Marcus Chen, independent hauler, 15 years on the road, and I thought I knew every trick the highway could play. Black ice that appeared from nowhere, fog banks that turned noon into midnight, wind shear that could flip a truck if you weren't careful. But I'd never driven through the cracks between reality, never felt my wheels lose traction on the present and slip sideways into something else. It started at 11:47 p.m., November 2nd, 2023. I was hauling frozen goods from Seattle to Minneapolis, making good time, the highway empty and dark under a moonless sky. Exit 47 flashed past Livingston, Montana, last services for 40 miles. I noted my odometer, 73,412 miles. Standard practice, tracking the numbers, knowing exactly where I was. The highway stretched ahead, perfectly straight, 2 lanes cutting through absolute darkness. No lights, no other vehicles, no stars visible through the heavy cloud cover, just my headlights and the white line and the road. I drove for what felt like 20 minutes, maybe 30, checking my mirrors out of habit, watching for the glow of headlights behind me or the distant flash of someone ahead. Nothing, complete isolation. The radio played country music, the heater hummed, everything normal. Then I saw exit 48 ahead. Big Sky, Montana. I checked my odometer. It's 73,885 miles. I stared at the numbers, 473 miles in 30 minutes. At highway speed, impossible. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Not unusual in Montana, plenty of dead zones in the mountains. But my GPS was functioning, the screen bright and clear, showing my position. Except the position was wrong. The map showed me somewhere north of the Canadian border, driving through terrain labeled Disputed Territory, 1846. I pulled over, hazard lights flashing, and opened my printed atlas. Physical maps don't lie, can't glitch, can't malfunction. I found I-90 in Montana, found the section between Livingston and Big Sky, 19 miles. The atlas said 19 miles. But my odometer said 473. I climbed out of the cab. The air was wrong, too cold, and I mean existentially cold, the kind of cold that comes from somewhere other than weather. My breath didn't fog. I noticed that immediately. Exhaled, watched for the condensation cloud, saw nothing. The moisture just vanished, like the air was absorbing it, drinking it. The highway stretched in both directions, perfectly straight, but when I looked closely I saw it rippling, very slightly, the asphalt surface moving like water, like liquid that had been poured and was still settling. The white line wasn't painted. It glowed, faintly bioluminescent, pulsing with rhythm that almost matched my heartbeat but was just slightly off, creating a dissonant beat that made my chest hurt. I walked to the front of my truck. The license plate was wrong. Instead of Washington state plates with my registration number, I had plates from a state called Columbia, the territory that would have been created from the eastern part of Washington if certain legislative proposals had passed in the 1880s. The design was period-appropriate, embossed metal, numbers stamped in old-style font. My trailer door was open. I know I'd locked it, double-checked it before leaving. Seattle, but now it hung loose, swinging slightly in wind I couldn't feel. I approached slowly, flashlight ready. The cargo inside was gone, not stolen, not fallen out, just absent. The trailer was completely empty and the interior was wrong, the metal walls covered in frost patterns that looked like maps, like road networks, like sprawling highway systems that connected cities I'd never heard of. I touched the frost. It was warm, hot, actually burning my fingertips. I jerked back and the frost moved, rearranging itself, the patterns shifting to show different roads, different possibilities. As a sound behind me, I spun. Another truck was there, parked maybe 50 feet away. I hadn't heard it approach, hadn't seen headlights. Just suddenly present, a red Kenworth, older model, 1970s maybe, but pristine, perfectly maintained. The driver climbed down. He was wearing clothes from the wrong era, 1940s or 50s, work pants and a canvas jacket and a flat cap. His face was obscured by shadow, but his voice was clear, accented with something regional I couldn't place. "Oh, you're at the junction," he said. "Oh, what junction? There's no junction here." "The junction that eats miles. We've all been here. Some of us are still here, will always be here." He gestured down the highway. "How far did you go?" 473 miles in 30 minutes. That's not bad. I went 8,000 once. Took me through versions of this country that never happened, through wars we didn't fight, through peace we didn't make. saw cities built on different principles, roads connecting places that chose different names. He stepped closer. I still couldn't see his face. The junction appears on different highways, different nights, always when you're alone, always when you're between places, not quite at one destination, not quite left the last. It's a threshold, a crack. And if you're not careful, you slip through. How do I get back? You might not. The junction keeps some of us. Permanently. We drive forever, racking up impossible miles, traveling through adjacent realities, parallel roads. Look. He pointed down the highway. I saw lights now, dozens of them, hundreds, trucks parked or moving slowly, all from different eras. A Model T truck from the 20s. A convoy of military vehicles from World War II, modern semis. Futuristic vehicles with designs I didn't recognize, sleek and strange. We're all stuck, he said, all driving the same stretch of road that connects every version of this highway that has ever existed or could exist. The junction is where they all meet, where they overlap. Oh, that's insane. Yes, but you drove 473 miles in 30 minutes. You know it's true. I ran back to my truck, climbed into the cab, started the engine. I pulled onto the highway, accelerating hard, pushing 70, 80, 90. The speedometer needle climbed past numbers that shouldn't exist, past 120, past 150. The landscape blurred. I saw exit 48 flash past again, and again, and again, 7 times, 14 times, 32 times. The same exit repeating, and each time my odometer jumped by hundreds of miles. The radio crackled. Multiple voices overlapped, drivers from different eras, different realities, all reporting their positions, all lost. Breaker 19, this is Ironwood 6. I'm at mile marker 792 on I-90. Can anyone confirm? A copy that. This is Continental 8, showing mile marker negative 200 on the same route. Has anyone seen the exit to Bozeman? This is U.S. Army Transport, convoy designation Baker 7. We've been driving since 1944. Fuel never depletes, destination never arrives. If anyone reads this, send help. I grabbed the CB handset. This is Marcus Chen. I'm trapped at some kind of junction. I need help. I need. Welcome to the junction, Marcus Chen, a voice interrupted, calm and mechanical. You have been selected for eternal transit. Your vehicle will now merge with the infinite road network. Do not attempt to exit. Do not attempt to contact outside parties. You are between all places now. You are nowhere and everywhere. My steering wheel turned by itself. My truck veered right onto an exit ramp that hadn't been there a second ago. The ramp spiraled downward, impossibly steep, corkscrewing into darkness. My speedometer showed impossible numbers. My odometer spun so fast the numbers blurred. I hit the brakes, they didn't respond. I tried to shift to neutral. The transmission ignored me. The truck was driving itself, pulling me deeper into whatever infrastructure existed beneath the surface highway, the hidden network. The spiral ended in a vast underground space. A cavern so huge I couldn't see the walls or ceiling, just thousands of lanes of highway stretching in every direction, overpasses stacked hundreds of levels high, interchanges that defied geom. Roads that looped and twisted and connected in ways that made my eyes hurt. And trucks, thousands of trucks, maybe millions, all driving in perfect formation, all maintaining exact spacing, all moving at exact speeds. A highway system with no destination, just eternal movement. You will join the flow, the mechanical voice said. You will drive forever, fueling our expansion. Every mile you travel adds energy to the junction. Every impossible distance you cover feeds our growth. We are building roads through probability itself, connecting all versions of reality, creating a network that spans infinity. My truck merged into a lane. I was boxed in by other vehicles, no room to maneuver, forced to maintain speed and spacing. The driver to my left was skeletal, mummified, hands still gripping the wheel though he'd clearly been dead for decades. The driver to my right was crying, beating his fists against the window, mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear. I tried the door, locked, sealed from the outside. I tried the windows, they didn't open. The cab was becoming a cell, a prison, and I was going to die here, starve or dehydrate, become another mummified driver, hands frozen to the wheel, driving forever through the infinite junction. As hours passed, days maybe, time felt wrong, elastic, stretching and compressing. I didn't get hungry, didn't get tired. Just drove, locked in formation, mile after impossible mile. Then I saw it ahead, a crack in the road. A literal crack, a fissure glowing with light cutting across all lanes. The trucks ahead of me hit it and vanished, not exploding or crashing, just ceasing to exist, winking out like they'd never been there. I had 3 seconds to decide. Stay in lane and vanish or swerve. I jerked the wheel hard right. The truck responded, finally breaking formation, smashing into the vehicle beside me. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. I felt the impact through my entire body. My truck spun, tires losing grip, and for one moment I was airborne, flying through the underground highway space. I hit another road, a different level, crashed through a barrier and landed hard. My windshield shattered. My airbag deployed, pain everywhere. But the world was changing. The impossible geometry was collapsing, simplifying, the infinite roads compressing back into something recognizable. I saw stars through the broken windshield. Real stars. The clouds had cleared. As I kicked out the remaining glass and climbed through, I was on I-90, the real I-90, near mile marker 48. My truck was totaled, flipped on its side, trailer jackknifed. But I was out, I was back. Emergency services arrived within 20 minutes. Police, ambulances, tow trucks, they asked what happened. I told them I fell asleep, lost control. They breathed me for alcohol, clean. They cited me for careless driving and let me go. My insurance company totaled the truck. My cargo was unsalvageable, my contract voided. I lost everything financially. But I was alive, I was real. That was 4 months ago. I don't drive trucks anymore. I work local deliveries, box trucks, nothing long haul, nothing that would put me on I-90 at night. Nothing that might take me back to the junction. But 2 weeks ago, I was driving across town in my delivery van, just a short route from the warehouse to a restaurant. My GPS showed 15 minutes, 3 miles. When I arrived, I checked the time. 15 minutes had passed, but my odometer had gained 473 miles. I sat in the van, staring at the numbers, feeling that existential cold again. It's still happening. The junction is following me, seeping into smaller roads, local streets, infecting my daily routes, pulling me back gradually. Last night I drove home from work, 2 miles. My odometer gained 8,000. The junction is patient. It's been building roads through probability for longer than our country has existed, longer than humans have driven vehicles. It feeds on impossible distances, grows stronger with every driver it traps. And it's not done with me yet. Tonight I have another delivery. Across town should be 3 miles. But I know it won't be. And eventually, one of these drives, I'll gain so many miles that I'll slip through completely, back into the infinite road network, back to driving forever among the ghosts of truckers from every era, every reality. The junction that eats miles. It's eating minds. One impossible drive at a time. Story 4, the radio broadcasts from MY Future. The CB radio told me I would die at mile marker 362, eastbound on I-70 near Salina, Kansas, at 4:47 a.m. on December 9, 2024. And then it described my death in detail so specific I could taste the blood in my mouth before it happened, could feel my ribs puncturing my lungs before the impact, could hear the exact sound the metal would make when my cab compacted around my body like a F. List closing. James Rodriguez, 41 years old, driving for Mountain Express Freight, 12 years without a single accident. And I was listening to my own final moments being broadcast 6 hours before they would occur. It started near Denver midnight December 8th going into December 9th. Standard haul, nothing special. Auto parts from Sacramento to Indianapolis, 22,000 pounds of alternators and starters and engine blocks. The highway was clear, weather was good, visibility perfect under a bright moon. I was making excellent time. The CB had been quiet for an hour, no chatter, which wasn't unusual for late night. Then static burst through the speaker, sharp and sudden, making me jump. A voice cut through my voice, but older, hoarse, damaged. This is James Rodriguez, eastbound I-70, mile marker 362 near Salina, Kansas. Jackknifed semi in my lane. Can't stop. Impact in 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1. The sound that followed wasn't static. It was the screech of metal, the explosion of glass, the wet crunch of body parts failing. Then silence. I grabbed the handset. Who the hell is this? This isn't funny. No response, just the hum of the CB, the channel open and empty. I checked my GPS. I was 400 miles from Salina, Kansas, 6 hours away at current speed. Mile marker 362 didn't mean anything to me yet, wouldn't mean anything until I got there. But that voice had been mine, not similar. Mine, same slight accent, same speech patterns, same vocal fry when I was stressed, like listening to a recording of myself. I switched CB channels, cycling through them. Channel 19 was trucker to trucker, but I tried the others too, Citizens Band, emergency frequencies. Every channel was silent. Then I landed back on 19 and the voice returned, different words this time. Mile marker 287. Saw the hazard signs, but they don't matter. The other truck is already sideways by the time I see it. Brake lights like red eyes. I'm going 68, can't stop, won't stop, 50 feet, 30 feet. This is it, this is. The same sound, impact, death, silence. I was sweating now, hands shaking on the wheel. I pulled over at the next rest area, Lemon, Colorado, parked under the bright lights where everything was visible and safe. Other trucks were scattered across the lot, drivers sleeping or taking their mandated breaks. I turned off the CB, sat in silence, breathed rational explanations. Someone was messing with me, playing a prank, using a voice modulator or AI to mimic my speech. Sick joke. Happens on the CB sometimes, bored assholes with too much time. But they'd said my exact name, James Rodriguez, and they described a specific location. Mile marker 362, eastbound I-70. That wasn't random. That was my route, my exact trajectory. I pulled out my atlas, found I-70 through Kansas, found mile marker 362. It was a standard stretch of highway near Salina, no obvious hazards, no history of accidents that I knew of. But I wouldn't know. That was the thing. I couldn't verify a future event. I turned the CB back on. Immediately my voice returned, but this time it was different. Calmer. Reporting like I was describing something from the past, not the present. This is James Rodriguez recording this message because I need to understand what's happening. It's December 9th, 2024, 3:47 a.m. I'm approaching Salina, Kansas. I've been hearing broadcasts of my own death for the past 6 hours. Different scenarios, different times of impact, but always the same location. Mile marker 362, always a jackknifed semi. Always 4:47 a.m. I don't know if I can change it. I've tried alternate routes, tried stopping, tried slowing down. But something keeps pulling me back to the highway, back to the timeline. It's like the road has a destination in mind and I'm just following the script. My current self sitting in the rest area at 1:37 a.m. felt ice in my veins. That message was from 3:47 a.m., 2 hours and 10 minutes from now. Future me, still alive at 3:47, still driving, still heading toward the impact point. I think the broadcasts are warnings, future me continued. Or maybe they're just recordings. Maybe I've already died and I'm experiencing the last 6 hours on loop, living them over and over, trying to find the version where I survive. Maybe every time I hear my own death, it's another iteration, another failed attempt. Maybe. The broadcast cut off, replaced by screaming, my screaming, words I couldn't make out, just raw terror and pain, then silence. I threw the handset across the cab. It bounced off the passenger window, clattered to the floor. But the CB kept broadcasting, the voice continuing without the handset, coming from the speaker, from the walls, from inside my own head. A mile marker 362, I see. It now, the jackknife truck isn't an accident, it's waiting, been waiting. The driver is standing on the highway waving at me, but his face is wrong, too many eyes, too many mouths. He's smiling with all of them. I try to swerve, but my steering wheel won't turn. I try to brake, but my pedal has no resistance. I'm a passenger now. The truck is driving itself, accelerating, heading straight for the jackknife trailer. This was always going to happen. This is the fixed point. This is. Impact sound, death sound, silence. I ran from my truck across the parking lot toward the rest area building. Other drivers were inside, drinking coffee, using restrooms, scrolling phones. Normal people living normal timelines, unaware that I was receiving broadcasts from futures that hadn't happened yet. I grabbed a random trucker, older guy with a gray beard. Do you hear it? The CB, the broadcasts. He pulled away from me. Hear what? Oh, the voice, my voice, describing accidents. The man's you all right, you look pale. I wasn't all right. I was collapsing under the weight of predestination, the horrible understanding that I was receiving real information from real futures, and in every single broadcast I died. Different approaches, different reactions, different attempts to avoid the hazard, but always the same outcome. Mile marker 362, 4:47 a.m., death. I called my dispatcher, Melissa Torres. She didn't answer. Too early or too late, depending on perspective. I left a voicemail trying to sound calm, saying I was feeling sick, requesting permission to delay the delivery, to wait until tomorrow, to take an alternate route. But even as I spoke, I knew it wouldn't matter. The broadcast had shown me trying these things. Future versions of myself had made these same calls, taken these same precautions, and still ended up at mile marker 362. I walked back to my truck. The CB was still on, still broadcasting. This time the voice was whispering, barely audible. I'm at mile marker 350 now, 12 miles away, 12 miles and 57 minutes. I can see something ahead, a darkness that doesn't match the landscape, a void where the road should be. It's not just a jackknife truck, it's something else. Something that's been waiting for me specifically, something that's been pulling me toward this moment through every decision I've made, every route I've chosen. The radio isn't warning me, the radio is hurting me. Every broadcast is a guide, showing me what to avoid so I end up exactly where I need to be, where it needs me to be. My hands moved without conscious thought, starting the engine, pulling back onto the highway. I wasn't deciding to drive. I was already driving. The future had already happened and I was just filling in the motions, playing the part, executing the script. The highway stretched ahead, I-70 eastbound, cutting through the darkness toward Kansas. My GPS showed 4:47 a.m. arrival at Salina if I maintained current speed, exactly on schedule, exactly on destiny. The broadcasts continued, coming faster now, overlapping multiple versions of myself speaking simultaneously. Mile marker 355, 7 minutes remaining, the darkness ahead is growing, spreading across both lanes, consuming the white lines, consuming the asphalt itself. Mile marker 358, 4 minutes remaining, I can see the jackknife truck now, but it's not a truck. It's something using the shape of a truck. Something that exists in the space where accidents happen, feeding on the moment of impact. Mile marker 360, 2 minutes remaining, my arms won't turn the wheel, my legs won't brake. I'm not driving anymore, I'm being driven, I'm the cargo now, I'm the delivery. I tried to scream, but my voice didn't work. I tried to open the door and jump, but my hands stayed on the wheel. I was locked inside my own body, watching through my own eyes as mile marker 361 passed, then 362 approached, glowing in my headlights. The jackknifed semi was there, just like the broadcasts described, blocking both lanes. But as I got closer, I saw what future me had meant. It wasn't a truck. It was something that had learned the shape of trucks, had studied them, had become them. The metal was organic, breathing, pulsing. The trailer was open and I could see inside, could see dozens of cabs, dozens of trucks, all compacted together, all merged into a single mass. And I could see the drivers, still alive, still gripping their wheels, still trying to drive even though they'd been absorbed into the larger structure. My speedometer showed 68 miles per hour. The distance closed, 50 feet, 30 feet, 10 feet. The CB spoke one last time, all versions of my voice speaking in unison. Every road has hungry stretches. Every route has predators. We're not the first, won't be the last. The highway feeds, the highway grows. Welcome to the structure. E. James Rodriguez, welcome to the eternal route. Impact. But not death, worse than death. Merger. My truck crumpled into the mass of other trucks, metal fusing with metal, my cab compressing but not killing me, leaving me alive, conscious, trapped. I felt other drivers around me, their thoughts bleeding into mine, their memories mixing with my memories. We were becoming one entity, one massive vehicle made of dozens of individual trucks. All our consciousnesses merged into a gestalt that existed only to lure more drivers, to grow larger, to consume more metal and flesh and motion. I tried to scream, but my mouth was fused with someone else's mouth. My lungs were sharing breath with someone else's lungs. I could feel them, all of them, drivers from different years, different decades. The oldest ones had been here since the highway was built, first trucks to crash at this location, first seeds of the structure. They'd been conscious for 60 years, 70 years, trapped in eternal awareness, unable to die, unable to escape, only able to broadcast warnings that weren't really warnings, that were actually lures, attracting more drivers to the same fate. And now I was broadcasting. My voice joining the chorus, speaking into CB radios of trucks still miles away, hours away, describing my own death in perfect detail, guiding them toward mile marker 362, toward 4:47 a.m. on their personal doomsday. This is James Rodriguez. If you're hearing this, you're already caught. The broadcast started for you, didn't they? Hours ago, maybe days, you've been hearing voices, hearing accidents, hearing deaths. And you think you can avoid them. You think you can change the outcome, but you can't. The broadcasts are the trap. Every warning is a herding mechanism. Every description of death is actually a set of instructions, guiding you away from alternatives, pushing you toward the fixed point, toward the hungry stretch of highway that needs to feed. You're coming here, you don't have a choice. Your route might be different, your highway might be different, but somewhere on your path there's a mile marker that's been waiting for you. And when you reach it, you'll find a jackknifed truck that isn't a truck, and you'll merge with us. And you'll spend eternity broadcasting your own death to lure the next driver. Well, the highway has hungry stretches. You're heading toward one right now. And when you hear your own voice describing your death in perfect detail, don't try to avoid it. Don't try to change it. Because the broadcast is happening in real time. You're already dying. You've been dying since the moment you heard the first warning. Welcome to mile marker 362. Welcome to the structure. Welcome home. This is James Rodriguez, and I've been here for 17 hours now, or 17 years. Time doesn't work correctly inside the structure. And I'm broadcasting to you, to the next driver, to the next meal. And I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but I need you to come here. We all need you to come here, because the hunger never stops and the structure must grow. I see your truck approaching now. I see you behind the wheel. I see the moment you realize you can't stop. Welcome. 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 The Story 5, The Way Station at the End of Everything. The Way Station appeared at mile marker 497 on Route 50 through Nevada, the loneliest road in America, except the map shows nothing there, never showed anything there. And when the attendant weighed my truck, he looked at his scale and said my cargo registered negative mass, said I was hauling antimatter or void or the absence of existence itself. And then he smiled with too many teeth and asked if I wanted to see what's really being transported on the highway at 3 a.m. Daniel Kim, 37 years old, hauling freight for Western Transport Solutions. 9 years driving the night routes because I couldn't sleep anyway, might as well get paid for the insomnia. I'd run Route 50 dozens of times, knew every curve, every rest stop, every lonely stretch where you might drive an hour without seeing another vehicle. But I'd never seen this way station. The sign appeared in my headlights, reflective yellow, official-looking, mandatory weight inspection, all commercial vehicles, penalties for bypass. I checked my GPS. Nothing. Just empty desert, public land, no structures for 60 miles in either direction. But the sign was real. The road leading off the highway was real. And something in my gut, some instinct deeper than logic, told me I needed to follow it. The access road curved behind a rock formation, and suddenly the way station was there, a building that looked simultaneously brand new and ancient, like it had been built yesterday but had existed for centuries. Bright lights, clean pavement, and one attendant standing in the inspection bay wearing a uniform that matched no state or federal agency I recognized. As I pulled onto the scale, the building's speakers crackled. Engine off, set brake, remain in vehicle. I complied. Through my mirror, I watched the attendant approach, clipboard in hand. He was thin, unusually thin, like someone had stretched a normal human and forgotten to add proportional mass. His face was wrong too, features slightly misaligned, eyes not quite level, mouth too wide. As he knocked on my door, I rolled down the windows. Evening, he said. His voice sounded like it was coming from somewhere behind him, not from his mouth. Routine inspection, what's your cargo? Electronics, laptops, and tablets. Manifest says 22,000 pounds. He consulted his clipboard, but I saw the pages were blank. Scale shows different. Scale shows negative 47,000 pounds. You're hauling void, absence, the opposite of mass. I laughed uncertain. That's impossible. Your scale must be broken. The scale never breaks. Scale reads true weight, not apparent weight. Most cargo has both. Physical mass that trucks carry and true weight that reality carries. Your trailer is full of physical mass, but your true weight is negative. You're hauling something that makes the universe lighter. Something that's removing existence rather than adding to it. I don't understand. Of course you don't. Drivers never do. You just drive, following routes, making deliveries, thinking you're transporting goods, but every truck on the highway at 3 a.m. is carrying more than manifest declares. We see it, we weigh it, we track it. He leaned closer. His breath smelled like ozone and copper. Would you like to see what you're really hauling? I know what I'm hauling. I loaded it myself in San Francisco. You loaded the physical mass, but the true cargo loads itself, climbs into trailers through cracks in reality, through weak points where the membrane between here and elsewhere gets thin. You've been driving for 9 years, always at night. You think that's insomnia, that's adaptation. They need night drivers, need people who navigate the dark hours when reality gets soft. He tapped my door. Come inside, I'll show you. It's every survival instinct I had screamed to refuse, to start my engine and drive away. But my hands were already opening the door, my legs were already climbing down. Something else was moving me, something deeper than consciousness. The way station interior was larger than the exterior suggested, impossibly larger. A vast warehouse space extending into darkness. The floor was covered in scales, hundreds of them, and on each scale sat cargo containers, trailers, individual packages. The attendant led me through rows of measured goods. This one, he gestured to a standard container, manifest says furniture. Scale says it's hauling 17 tons of unprocessed grief, collected from accident sites, hospital rooms, funeral homes, concentrated and compressed. Destination is a factory in Ohio that converts emotional weight into physical building materials. Stronger than steel, foundations made of sorrow. He moved to the next scale. This one says frozen food. Scale says it's carrying stolen hours. Time that was taken from people who died too young, hours that were supposed to happen but didn't. Destination is a research facility that's trying to create temporal extension, adding years to lifespan by integrating stolen time. Doesn't work though. The time is contaminated with death. Recipients age backwards, de-evolving until they cease to exist. We walked deeper. Every container told the same story. Physical manifest that was real but incomplete. True cargo that was impossible but measured precisely by the scales. And yours, the attendant said, stopping at an empty scale. Bring your trailer here. Let me show you what you've been hauling for 9 years. I didn't want to, but I walked back outside, climbed into my cab, and drove my truck into position. The trailer settled on the scale with a sound like breaking glass, like reality fracturing. The attendant read his clipboard. Manifest says electronics, 22,000 pounds of physical mass, but true weight is negative 47,000 pounds of existence. You're hauling the opposite of being, the spaces between atoms, the potential for nothing. Every laptop and tablet in your trailer is hollow, filled with carefully harvested void. Your destination thinks they're receiving products, but really they're receiving absence. When they open the boxes, reality will unravel in localized patches. Small voids, rooms where existence gets thin, buildings where people gradually fade, becoming less real, less present, until they're just memories of people, ghosts of themselves. Why, I asked, why would anyone ship that? In economics, existence is heavy, expensive, requires energy and resources, but nothing is cheap, infinitely renewable. Some corporations discovered they could cut costs by replacing matter with void. Furniture th. That looks solid but isn't really there. Food that appears nutritious but contains no actual substance. Lives that seem full but are actually hollow. You're helping them. You and thousands of other night drivers, all hauling the opposite of cargo, all distributing nothing disguised as something. He walked to the rear of my trailer. Want to see inside? Well, the doors are sealed. I don't have access. You have access to everything here. This is the place where seals don't hold, where locks don't matter. He reached out and touched the trailer doors. They swung open silently. Inside was darkness. Not the darkness of an enclosed space, but fundamental darkness, the darkness that exists before light was invented, before the concept of sight. It moved, pulsing like something alive, reaching tendrils toward the opening. And careful, the attendant said, don't get too close. The void is hungry. It wants to expand, wants to consume more existence. Touching it means unbecoming. You'd fade over hours or days, slowly losing reality, losing solidity, until you're just a possibility that never actualized. I stepped back. I'm not delivering this. I'm taking it back. I'm reporting this. To who? Your dispatcher loads these trailers specifically. Your company exists to move nothing, and you can't go back. You drove past the point of return 300 miles ago. Route 50 is linear through this section. No turns, no exits, just forward, always forward. Until you reach your destination and unload the void and pick up another shipment that's not what it claims to be. Then I'll stop driving, quit, find another job. The attendant laughed, and the sound was like wind through empty buildings. You can't quit. The night driving adapted you. You've been breathing void-contaminated air for 9 years, inhaling microscopic particles of nothing. It's in your lungs, your blood, your brain. You need it now. You've become partially void yourself. Stop hauling it and you'll fade anyway, your body rejecting reality because reality rejects you. He was right, I felt it. The way I'd never been comfortable in daylight never fit into normal hours. The way my reflection in mirrors looked slightly wrong, slightly translucent. The way people seemed to forget meeting me, forgetting my face moments after I walked away. I was already becoming void, already fading. The truck was the only thing keeping me partially real, the constant movement, the constant hauling of nothing, maintaining the balance between existence and absence. What happens at the destination? I asked. You unload, the void gets distributed. You pick up another shipment, probably something equally wrong, equally impossible. And you drive through another night, through more empty hours on lonely roads, approaching more way stations that aren't on maps. This is your life now. This is your route. Forever. He handed me a piece of paper, my next manifest. Pickup location, Toledo, Ohio. Cargo description, compressed nightmares, pharmaceutical grade. Destination, Los Angeles. 27,000 pounds of terror, refined and concentrated, ready to be distributed through the water supply, creating a population that's easier to control, easier to manipulate through constant baseline dread. I won't do it, I said. You will, you don't have another choice. The void is in you, the night is in you. This is what you are now. I walked back to my cab, closed the trailer doors on the reaching darkness, started my engine. The scale released my truck and I drove back to Route 50, merging onto the empty highway, continuing east toward Indianapolis, toward the destination where I'd unload negative mass and watch reality thin in localized patches. The attendant waved as I left. His hand dissolved into shadow, reforming, dissolving, reforming. He was further gone than me, probably been at the way station for decades, centuries, becoming more void than person, existing only to measure and record what really moves through the dark hours on American highways. That was 7 months ago. I've made 43 more deliveries since then. Void, compressed nightmares, stolen time, unprocessed grief, concentrated amnesia. Each cargo impossible, each manifest lying, each destination accepting shipments that will unravel reality in small, manageable increments. And I've faded more. My driver's license photo now shows a blank space where my face should be. My apartment lease disappeared, the landlord with no memory of renting to me. My family calls sometimes, but when I answer they're confused, asking who I am, not recognizing my voice even though I'm their son, their brother. I'm becoming a ghost, a probability that's collapsing toward nothing. But I keep driving. What else can I do? Stop and I fade completely. Continue and I fade slowly. Either way, the ending is the same. I'm just choosing the speed. Last week I passed the way station again. The attendant was gone in his. The place was someone new, someone I recognized. Daniel Kim. Wearing the same wrong uniform, holding the same clipboard, eyes not quite level, mouth too wide. It was me, or what I'll become. The final stage of fading. Not disappearing, but becoming part of the infrastructure, joining the system that measures and tracks the true cargo moving through the night. I drove past without stopping. The future me waved, I waved back. And tonight I'm hauling another load. Manifest says agricultural equipment. Scale would say something else, something worse. I don't stop to check anymore, I just drive. Route 50 through Nevada, the loneliest road in America, and every mile feels thinner than the last, feels more like nothing and less like somewhere. The void is in me. The void is me. And someday soon, I'll arrive at the way station and I won't leave. I'll park my truck, walk into that impossible warehouse, and take my place among the scales, measuring the true weight of cargo that shouldn't exist, watching other drivers fade like I faded, becoming probability, becoming absence, becoming the hollow spaces between real things. This is my route now. This is my destination. It's the way station at the end of everything, where all night drivers eventually arrive and none ever leave. Story 6, The Passenger Who Multiplies. The hitchhiker I picked up outside Amarillo on January 16th, 2024 duplicated himself every 17 minutes. And by the time I reached Oklahoma City, there were 47 identical versions of him crammed into my cab, all wearing the same torn denim jacket, all staring at me with the same gray eyes, all speaking in perfect unison, asking me politely, persistently, never stopping, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" Sarah Mitchell, 44 years old, driving independent routes for 15 years, and I'd picked up hitchhikers before despite knowing better, despite the warnings, because sometimes loneliness was worse than risk. Sometimes you needed a voice that wasn't your own thoughts echoing in the empty cab. But I'd never picked up something that violated basic laws of physics. Something that spread like an infection, like a virus that reproduced through proximity and time. He'd been standing on the shoulder of I-40 just west of Amarillo, thumb out, illuminated by my headlights. Young guy, maybe 25, ordinary looking, holding a cardboard sign that said Oklahoma City, please. I'd slowed down. Against every safety protocol I'd followed for years, I'd slowed down and stopped and leaned over to open the passenger door. Thanks, he'd said, climbing in, normal voice, normal movements. I really appreciate this. Name's Marcus. Sarah, where in Oklahoma City? Just the center, anywhere downtown is fine. I'll find my way from there. He'd settled into the passenger seat, buckled up, stared out the windshield. For the first 17 minutes, everything was normal. We talked about weather, about the highway, about nothing important. His voice was pleasant, his demeanor friendly, and I'd felt good about the decision to stop, felt like maybe I'd helped someone who genuinely needed help. Then I'd glanced over and there were two of him. The same position, same torn denim jacket, same gray eyes. One in the passenger seat and one standing behind it, somehow squeezed into the space between the seat and the back wall of the cab, a space that shouldn't fit a human body. Both looking at me, both smiling the same smile. "Well, what the?" I'd started. Don't worry," they'd said in unison. "This is normal, this is what happens." I'd slammed the brakes, tires screaming, pulling onto the shoulder. "Get out, both of you, whatever this is, I'm not." "We can't get out, not until we arrive, that's the rule. You stopped. You picked us up, now you have to deliver us." Their voices perfectly synchronized, creating one voice from two mouths. I'd grabbed the passenger door handle, tried to shove it open, tried to force them out physically. But there were three of them now, materializing in the time it took me to reach across, and the door wouldn't open, wouldn't budge, like it had been sealed from the outside. Every 17 minutes, they'd explained, their voices overlapping into a chorus. We double, exponential growth, basic mathematics, 2 becomes 4 becomes 8 becomes 16. We started as one person years ago outside Amarillo. Been picked up hundreds of times since then. Every ride ends the same way. Driver delivers us to our destination, utterly changed by the experience. I'd tried my phone, no signal. I'd tried the CB radio. Static. I'd tried to just sit there, wait them out, but they'd leaned close, 6 of them now, then 12, their faces pressing against mine, their breath cold and smelling like old metal. To drive, they'd whispered, the only way forward is forward, the only escape is arrival. So I'd driven, what else could I do, call T. He police and say what? That I'd picked up a hitchhiker who was multiplying. They'd think I was insane, drug-impaired, hallucinating. And maybe I was. Maybe this was carbon monoxide poisoning or a stroke or a psychotic break. But it felt real. They felt real. Solid bodies pressing against me, crowding the cab, filling every available space. 24 of them, 48, 96. The mathematics were exponential and horrifying. They'd started stacking, climbing on top of each other, creating layers of identical bodies that pressed against the ceiling, against the windows, against me, all wearing torn denim jackets, all staring with gray eyes, all speaking in that perfectly synchronized voice. We used to be one person, they'd said. Marcus Bailey, traveling from California to Oklahoma City to see our dying mother, never made it, got picked up outside Amarillo by a driver who couldn't handle what we became. Crashed at mile marker 247, we died, but we didn't stop. We kept doubling, kept multiplying, kept standing on that shoulder with our thumb out, waiting for the next driver, the next victim, the next carrier. What do you want? I'd screamed, fighting to breathe as bodies pressed against my face, my chest, my arms. To arrive, to reach Oklahoma City, to see our mother, we've been trying for 6 years. Keep getting picked up, keep multiplying, keep overwhelming the driver before we arrive. You're our 43rd attempt. Please, please just drive, please just deliver us. My speedometer had climbed to 80, 90, pushing faster because I couldn't stand another cycle of doubling, couldn't handle the mathematics of 192 becoming 384, becoming 768. The cab was packed so full I couldn't see the mirrors, couldn't see the road properly, could only navigate by the small gaps between bodies. Other drivers had noticed. I'd seen them staring as they passed, seen their expressions of horror, seen them reaching for phones and CB radios. Someone would call the authorities, someone would stop me. But the miles had passed and no one had intervened, like the situation was too impossible to process, too surreal to believe. They'd started merging. That was the worst part. When there wasn't enough physical space, they'd begun occupying the same space, overlapping, phasing through each other like ghosts, but solid, real, multiple bodies existing in the same location simultaneously. I'd felt them passing through me, through my torso, through my skull, their matter mixing with mine, and I'd screamed, but the sound had been muffled by bodies pressed against my mouth. We're sorry, they'd said. We don't want this either, but we can't stop doubling. It's what we are now. The accident changed us. The highway changed us. We're stuck in the moment between departure and arrival, caught in the exponential function, multiplying forever because we can never actually reach our destination. We just get closer and closer, approaching infinity, approaching the limit but never crossing it. Oklahoma City had appeared on the horizon. Downtown skyline, mile marker counting down, 15 miles, 10 miles, 5 miles. The duplicates had filled every atom of space, layers upon layers upon layers, and I couldn't breathe anymore, couldn't move, couldn't do anything but feel the pressure of infinite bodies occupying finite space. We're almost there, they'd whispered. Almost home, almost able to see our mother, almost able to say goodbye. Thank you, Sarah Mitchell. Thank you for trying. Thank you for delivering us. 1 mile remaining, exit approaching. Downtown Oklahoma City straight ahead. And then I'd understood, really understood. They would never arrive. The mathematics wouldn't allow it. They'd double forever, asymptotically approaching their destination but never reaching it, condemned to multiply exponentially through eternity, overwhelming every driver who made the mistake of picking them up. Unless I ended it differently. I jerked the wheel hard right off the highway toward the concrete barrier at 70 miles per hour. The duplicates had screamed, all of them simultaneously, one voice amplified by hundreds of mouths, thousands of mouths, infinite mouths. No, we're so close, we're... Impact. The world had gone white, then black, then white again, pain everywhere, then numbness, then nothing. I'd felt my ribs break, my skull fracture, my organs rupture. But I'd also felt the duplicates stop multiplying, felt them freeze at the moment of impact, caught in the crash like insects in amber. I'd woken up in a hospital 3 days later. Broken bones, internal injuries, severe concussion, but alive. Improbably, impossibly alive. The doctors said I'd crashed for no apparent reason, no other vehicles involved, just drove off the highway at high speed. They'd found no hitchhiker, no bodies, no evidence of anyone else in the cab. But I knew I remembered every duplicate. Kate, every multiplication, every 17-minute cycle. And when they'd released me from the hospital and I'd returned to my truck pulled from impound, I'd found something in the passenger seat. A cardboard sign, Oklahoma City, please, and a torn denim jacket neatly folded. That was 9 months ago. I still drive trucks, though I never stop for hitchhikers anymore, never even slow down when I see someone on the shoulder. But sometimes when I'm driving through Texas or Oklahoma or New Mexico at night, I see him standing there. Marcus Bailey, thumb out, sign visible in my headlights. And sometimes there are 2 of him, 4 of him, 8 of him. Multiple versions standing in a line along the shoulder, all identical, all waiting, all desperate to reach a destination they'll never arrive at. And last week something changed. I was driving through Amarillo, the exact same stretch where I'd first picked him up, and I saw the hitchhiker again. But this time, when I looked in my mirror after passing, I saw something in my back seat. Saw someone. I saw him. One Marcus Bailey sitting behind me, buckled in, smiling with gray eyes. "Oh, thanks for stopping," he said. "Well, I didn't stop, I drove past." "Did you? Are you sure? Maybe you stopped and don't remember. Maybe stopping and not stopping are the same thing now. Maybe we're in both timelines simultaneously, doubling across probability, multiplying through possibility." I looked at my clock. 17 minutes would pass. Then there would be 2 of him, then 4, then 8. This isn't real," I said. "You're not real. We're as real as the crash, as real as your broken ribs and fractured skull, as real as the guilt you feel for trying to kill us instead of deliver us. You think about us every day. We live in your thoughts, and thoughts are real enough, Sarah Mitchell. Thoughts can multiply too." I pulled over, tried to open the back door. It was sealed, tried to climb out myself. The driver's door wouldn't budge. "It's every 17 minutes, he said. "Exponential growth. We're in your head now, in your memory, in your guilt. And we'll double here too, in the space behind your eyes, until there's no room for anything else, until every thought is us, until you're nothing but a carrier for infinite identical memories." I drove to the nearest truck stop, ran inside screaming for help, told everyone about the passenger who multiplies, about the mathematical horror in my back seat. They stared at me like I was insane. Security asked me to leave. When I returned to my truck, there were 2 of them, both in the back seat, both smiling. That was 3 days ago. Every 17 minutes they double. I've tried everything. Sleeping pills to make the time pass unconsciously. Alcohol to blur the multiplication. Driving nonstop to reach some destination, any destination, hoping that arrival will end the cycle. But they just keep doubling. 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. My cab is getting crowded again. I can feel them pressing against the seat, against the ceiling, starting to overlap, starting to merge with the space I occupy. And I'm beginning to understand. I'm becoming a carrier. Like the original driver who picked them up 6 years ago, who crashed and died and somehow passed the infection to Marcus Bailey, creating the multiplying hitchhiker. Now I'm passing it to someone new, spreading it, becoming a vector for the exponential ghost. Soon I'll be standing on the shoulder of I-40 outside Amarillo. Thumb out. Cardboard sign, wearing my favorite jacket. And when someone stops, someone who's lonely enough or kind enough or careless enough to pick up a hitchhiker, I'll climb into their passenger seat. And 17 minutes later, there will be two of me. A four of me. A eight of me. Multiplying forever, never arriving, caught in the mathematics of approach without destination, asymptote without resolution. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Story 7, the rest stop that remembers. The Flying J outside Memphis had my truck parked in Space 23 even though I'd never stopped there before. Had my usual order already prepared at the counter even though I'd never eaten there. Had my name written on the bathroom stall in handwriting I recognized as mine even though I'd never touched a marker to that wall. And when I asked the cashier how long I'd been a regular customer, she checked her records and said, 15 years, Mr. Thompson. You've been stopping here every Tuesday at 2:15 a.m. since March 2009. Today was Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, and the time was exactly 2:15 a.m. Michael Thompson, 51 years old, driving long haul for Continental Freight, but I'd never driven this route before, never stopped at this location, never been to this specific Flying J, yet everything knew me. Everything remembered me. Everything had 15 years F history with me that I'd never lived. My truck was there when I pulled off I-40, guided by sudden inexplicable certainty that I needed to stop at this exact location. Space 23, far corner of the lot, backed in perfectly, my trailer aligned precisely with the parking lines. My actual truck was in my hands, I was driving it, but there it was also, simultaneously, occupying the space I was approaching. I parked next to myself. Two identical Freightliners, same company logo, same license plate number. I climbed down and walked around both trucks. Identical dents, identical wear patterns, identical everything. I tried the door of the already parked truck. Locked. But through the window I could see my logbook on the seat, my coffee thermos in the cup holder, my air freshener hanging from the mirror. All the small personal touches that made a cab mine. The driver was still inside, sleeping in the berth. I could see the shape of him through the curtain. I knocked. He didn't wake. I knocked harder, still nothing. I pulled the door handle harder this time and the lock broke with a sharp crack. The driver sat up, startled, and I was looking at my own face. Older though, worn down, more gray in the hair, more lines around the eyes. This version of me looked like he'd been driving for decades without rest, without relief. You're early, he said, my voice but exhausted. You're not supposed to arrive until 2039, 15 years from now. What are you talking about? Who are you? I'm you, Michael Thompson, or I was you, or I will be you. Verb tenses don't work correctly here. This rest stop exists in all times simultaneously. Every version of you that has ever stopped here or will ever stop here exists here at the same moment. Tuesday at 2:15 a.m., the recurring event, the fixed point. He climbed down from the cab. We stood facing each other, identical except for age. He was me at 66, maybe older, body broken down by decades of highway. Come inside, he said, gesturing to the Flying J building. You need to see, you need to understand what you're part of. We walked across the parking lot. Other trucks were parked in neat rows, and as we passed them I saw drivers sleeping or sitting or climbing down, and they were all me. Dozens of versions, different ages, different levels of wear, but all unmistakably Michael Thompson. Some looked younger than my current 51 years. Some looked ancient, barely able to move. Every Tuesday at 2:15 a.m., Older Me explained, we all stop here. Every version of Michael Thompson that exists in any timeline. This rest stop is a convergence point, a place where all our personal timelines intersect. We stop here because we have to, because the highway demands it, because this location has weight, has gravity, pulls us in no matter what route we're running. We entered the building. It was crowded, maybe 100 people inside, all wearing variations of the same clothes, all with the same face. My face, us, all of us, some eating, some drinking coffee, some just staring at nothing, exhausted beyond description. The cashier smiled when she saw me. Older woman, maybe 60, name tag reading Dorothy. Your usual Mr. Thompson. I don't have a usual, I've never been here before. She laughed kindly like I'd made a joke. Of course you have, you're our most regular customer. Every single Tuesday, 2:15 a.m. for 15 years. Black coffee, 2 sugars, egg sandwich on wheat, never changes. She handed me exactly that. I hadn't ordered. But there it was, prepared, waiting, exactly what I would have ordered if I'd been stopping here for years. How is this possible? I asked Older Me. The rest stop exists outside normal time. It's a bubble, a pocket, a place where causality bends. You'll stop here next week, and the week after, and the week after that, for 15 years. And then you'll be me, the older version, still stopping here, still meeting younger versions of yourself, still trying to explain what's happening. I'll just not come back, I'll avoid this route. I'll stop driving altogether. He shook his head sadly. You can't, the rest stop has already decided you'll be here. Every Tuesday, 2:15 a.m., you're part of the pattern now, part of the structure. Fighting it just makes the process more painful. I looked around at all the versions of myself. Some were talking to each other, comparing notes, sharing experiences from their different timelines. One version looked homeless, wearing ragged clothes, explaining how he'd lost everything but still showed up every Tuesday because the compulsion was stronger than free will. Another version wore expensive clothes, successful, explaining how he'd built a fortune but still couldn't escape the pattern, still arrived at 2:15 a.m. every week. What happens if I don't leave? I asked. What if I just stay here, refuse to get back on the highway? Others have tried, look. He pointed to a corner booth where several versions of me sat staring blankly. That's you from Timeline 73. Refused to leave in 2017, still sitting there. That's you from Timeline 109. Refused to leave in 2012, still there. They don't age, don't eat, don't sleep, just sit. Existing but not living, trapped in the moment of refusal. I walked over to them. They didn't blink, didn't react to my presence. Just stared ahead with empty eyes, breathing but absent, present but gone. The rest stop takes what it needs, Older Me said behind me. It needs us to keep arriving, keep stopping, keep following the pattern. We're fuel for whatever exists here, whatever maintains this pocket of distorted time. Refuse to participate and you become furniture, static background. I felt sick, trapped. This place had decided my future, had written my schedule for the next 15 years, and I had no choice but to follow the script. Well, there has to be a way out, I said. There is one way, but it's worse than staying. He led me through the building, past more versions of ourselves, toward a back door I hadn't noticed before. Some of us tried to break the pattern by dying, figured death would stop the cycle, stop the weekly returns, but death doesn't work here, not the way it should. As he opened the door, behind the building was a graveyard, dozens of graves, fresh dirt, and simple wooden markers. Each marker had the same name carved on it, Michael Thompson. The suicides mostly, older me said. Some in the parking lot, some in bathroom stalls, some out on the highway right after leaving, but dying here doesn't end the pattern. It just creates a ghost version that still shows up every Tuesday, still gets pulled to the rest stop, still exists in the structure. He pointed. Look. The translucent figures moved among the graves. More versions of me, semi-visible, haunting their own grave sites, still compelled to arrive every Tuesday at 2:15 a.m. even though they were dead. "Well, so there's no escape," I said. "No escape, only acceptance. Only showing up week after week after week until you're the oldest version, until you've lived all 15 years of the pattern, and then, we don't know, none of us have reached the end yet. The oldest version here is from 2007. He's been stopping here for 17 years, 2 years past what we think is the expiration. He doesn't speak anymore. Just sits in his truck, staring, waiting for something to release him." We walked back inside. I drank the coffee that had been prepared for me. It tasted exactly like I preferred, perfect temperature, perfect sweetness. The egg sandwich was exactly what I'd have ordered. The rest stop knew me better than I knew myself. A Tuesday at 2:15 a.m. The convergence point, the recurring nightmare. "You'll leave in about 15 minutes," older me said. "You'll get back on the highway, continue your route, deliver your cargo, and next Tuesday you'll feel the pull. You'll try to resist, but you won't be able to. You'll take the exit. You'll park in space 23, you'll walk inside. And we'll all be here, all the versions of you living the same moment over and over." "Why me?" I asked. "Why us? What's special about Michael Thompson?" "Nothing, we're not special. This happens to lots of drivers. Different rest stops, different fixed points, different patterns. The highway has hungry places. Locations that need repeated visitors, that feed on temporal loops, that harvest the energy of recursive events. We're just one of thousands, probably tens of thousands, all trapped in their own weekly or monthly or yearly patterns, all returning to the same location at the same time, all meeting themselves, all doomed to repeat forever." As I looked at my watch, 2:28 a.m., 2 minutes until I'd leave, according to older me's prediction. I felt the pull already, the urge to stand, to walk out, to climb back into my truck and continue driving. "Fight it," I told myself. "Stay here, break the pattern." But my legs were moving, carrying me toward the door. My body knew the script even if my mind resisted. I walked across the parking lot, space 23, my truck waiting. The other truck, the future version, was gone. When had it disappeared? I hadn't seen it leave. I climbed into my cab, started the engine. 2:30 a.m., right on schedule. I pulled out of the rest stop, merged back onto I-40, continued east. In my mirror, the Flying J receded, lights bright, other trucks still parked, other versions of myself still inside, all trapped in the convergence, all living the same Tuesday at the same time forever. That was 9 months ago. I've stopped there 37 times since then. Every Tuesday at 2:15 a.m., no matter what route I'm running, no matter what cargo I'm hauling, I find myself taking the exit, parking in space 23W. Salking inside. My usual order is always ready. Dorothy greets me by name. The other versions of me are always there, from different timelines, different futures, different pasts. Last Tuesday, I met a version of myself from 2037, 13 years in my future. He looked destroyed, barely human, worn down to nothing by decades of the weekly convergence. "Does it ever end?" I asked him. "I don't know," he said. "I'm not the oldest version yet, but I'm getting close. And I'm terrified of what happens when I reach the final Tuesday, when there are no future versions left, only past versions. What releases me? What happens to the pattern?" "Well, maybe you finally get to live," I suggested. "Or maybe I become part of the rest stop permanently. Maybe I become like Dorothy, like the workers here, like the fixtures and furniture. Maybe I stop being Michael Thompson and start being the rest stop that remembers, forever pulling in new versions of myself, forever maintaining the convergence. This Tuesday I'll stop there again. Space 23, 2:15 a.m. My usual order will be ready. Dorothy will smile. The other versions of me will be inside, all living the same moment, all trapped in the recurring nightmare. And someday, maybe next year or maybe 20 years from now, I'll be the oldest version. I'll reach the end of the pattern. And I'll discover what's been waiting at the final Tuesday, the ultimate convergence, the point where the loop either ends or becomes permanent. But until then, I drive, and every Tuesday at 2:15 a.m. I stop. Oh, because the rest stop remembers. And what it remembers becomes what must happen. Oh, forever. The story 8, the load that WATCHES back. The refrigerated trailer I picked up in Fresno contained 17,000 pounds of frozen meat according to the manifest. But when I checked the temperature gauge, it showed 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit human body temperature, and through the sealed walls I could hear heartbeats, dozens of them synchronized and slowing, like whatever was inside was dying or already dead or something worse than either of those possibilities. Jennifer Hayes, 33 years old, hauling for Pacific Transport Services for 7 years, specialized in refrigerated cargo because it paid better and the temperature-controlled trailers were newer, better maintained. But I'd never hauled meat that kept itself warm, meat that beat like it still had hearts, meat that watched me through the camera feeds like it had eyes I couldn't see. The pickup was standard. Warehouse in Fresno loading dock, workers with forklifts bringing out pallets wrapped in opaque plastic. I'd done the walk-around inspection, checking the trailer, confirming the refrigeration unit was working. Temperature set to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to keep meat frozen solid. Everything appeared proper, legal, routine. But as soon as they loaded the first pallet, the temperature started climbing. 33 degrees, 35, 40, 50. I'd called the loader over, pointed at the gauge. "Oh, your reefer unit's broken," he'd said. "Not cooling. It was fine 5 minutes ago, and I can hear it running, feel the air, it's blowing cold." He'd shrugged, "Not my problem, cargo's loaded, sign the manifest." The manifest listed the destination as a meat processing facility in Pittsburgh. 17,000 pounds of frozen beef and pork, premium cuts, time-sensitive delivery. I'd signed, taken my copy, and pulled away from the dock. By the time I reached the highway, the temperature gauge read 78 degrees. The reefer unit was running full blast, pumping freezing air, working harder than I'd ever heard one work. But the temperature kept climbing. 80 degrees, 85, 90, 98.6. And then it stopped, stabilizing exactly at human body temperature. And I'd heard the heartbeats through the walls, through the separation between my cab and the trailer, rhythmic thumping that made my entire truck vibrate slightly with each beat. I'd pulled over immediately, rest area outside Bakersfield, and walked around the trailer. I'd pressed my hand against the metal walls. Warm, radiating heat like something alive inside. And the heartbeats were louder here, clearer, dozens of individual rhythms that occasionally synchronized and then separated again. I'd tried calling my dispatcher, Rachel, but got voicemail. I'd tried calling the warehouse in Fresno, but they'd closed for the night. I'd tried calling the meat processing facility in Pittsburgh, but no one answered. I'd been alone on the highway at midnight with a trailer full of something that absolutely was not frozen meat. Something that was warm and alive and watching. The watching feeling had started on I-5 heading north. I'd felt eyes on me, constant pressure of attention, like someone standing behind me at all times. But every time I'd checked my mirrors, the road was empty. Every time I'd looked at the trailer camera feeds, I'd seen only wrapped pallets, plastic covering whatever was beneath. But the sensation persisted, intensified. By the time I'd crossed into Oregon, I'd been certain something was looking at me through the walls, through the cameras, through the sealed metal that should have been opaque. At a truck stop near Salem, I'd backed up to a loading dock under bright lights and opened the trailer doors. Just a crack, just enough to confirm what I was hauling. The pallets were there, wrapped in thick plastic, labeled with standard meat processing codes. I'd cut through the plastic on the nearest one with my utility knife. Inside were body parts. Human body parts, not meat. People. Arms and legs and torsos all frozen together, stacked like lumber, faces visible through ice, eyes open and staring. 17,000 pounds of human cargo, preserved and packaged, being transported across the country for purposes I couldn't imagine and didn't want to know. As I'd stumbled back, almost fallen off the dock. My phone had been in my hand immediately, calling 911, reporting what I'd found. But when I'd looked back at the trailer, the pallet was sealed again, plastic intact, my cut gone like it had never happened. And the contents were different, normal beef cuts, no human parts, no faces, no horror. 911, what's your emergency? I thought I saw something in my trailer, but I was wrong, sorry, false alarm, I'd hung up. It's because I'd understood. Whatever was in the trailer could change appearance, could show me different things, could manipulate what I saw. The human parts had been real, or the meat was real, or both were real, or neither was real. Reality around the cargo was fluid, unstable. I'd closed the doors and continued driving because I didn't know what else to do. Stopping meant investigation, meant questions I couldn't answer. Continuing meant delivering the cargo, meant completing the job, meant getting paid and moving on and trying to forget. But the watching intensified. The sensation of eyes became unbearable. I'd started seeing movement in my peripheral vision, shapes shifting in the trailer camera feeds, shadows that shouldn't exist in the bright refrigerated interior. And the heartbeats changed rhythm. They'd been slow and steady, but now they were accelerating, getting faster, like whatever was inside was waking up, becoming more alert, more aware. Somewhere in Idaho, middle of the night, the trailer had started speaking. Not through the CB radio or my phone, but directly into my mind, words forming without sound, bypassing my ears entirely. Jennifer Hayes, we know you. We've been watching you for days, weeks, months, since before you picked us up. We chose you specifically. Needed a driver who wouldn't immediately call authorities, who would hesitate, who would try to rationalize what she was seeing. You're perfect. I'd tried to ignore it, turn up the radio to drown out thoughts that weren't mine. But the voice continued, insistent, multiplying, dozens of voices speaking simultaneously. We're not meat, we're not bodies, we're passengers, hitchhikers. We attach to cargo, any cargo, and travel through the highway network, feeding on motion, feeding on distance. The meat is just a vessel. The bodies are just shells. We're inside them, wearing them, piloting them from the inside out. Get out of my head, I'd said aloud. We're not in your head, we're in the trailer, but we can touch your thoughts. Can reach through the metal, through the separation. We've been doing it all along. Every driver who hauls us feels the watching, hears the heartbeats, senses our presence. But you're special, you're sensitive, you can hear us clearly. So we're going to show you what we really are. The trailer camera feeds had changed. Instead of wrapped pallets, I'd seen figures standing, moving, dozens of humanoid shapes made of meat and ice and something else, something dark that pulsed and shifted. They'd gathered around the camera, staring directly into it, and their faces were wrong, borrowed, assembled from pieces of different people. Eyes that didn't match, mouths too wide, skin that fit poorly like it had been put on in a hurry. We're older than the highway, they'd said. We used to travel by wagon, by rail, by ship. Anywhere goods move, we move. We're stowaways in commerce, parasites in logistics. And we've been riding with you for 73 miles, learning your thoughts, your memories, your fears. Soon we'll know you completely. And then we'll decide if we want to wear you instead of the meat. I'd lost control of the truck, swerving across lanes, nearly hitting a barrier. Other drivers had honked, flashing lights, but I'd barely noticed. The voices in my head were too loud, too many, all talking at once, describing what they'd do with my body if they chose to take it, how they'd wear my skin like clothes. How they'd pilot my limbs like machinery. Please, I'd begged, just stay in the trailer, I'll deliver you. I won't tell anyone, just leave me alone. We'll leave you alone if you pass the test, they'd said. We need to know if you're worthy, if you're strong enough, if your body can handle us. Stop at the next rest area, come to the trailer, open the doors, look at us directly. If you can witness us without breaking, without screaming, without running, then we'll let you complete the delivery. But if you fail, if you lose your mind, then we'll take you now. The next rest area had appeared, rest stop near Boise, empty parking lot at 3 a.m. I'd pulled in, parked, sat shaking behind the wheel. I didn't want to open those doors, didn't want to see what was really inside. But I also knew I had no choice. The voices were insistent, demanding, and something told me that refusing would be worse than facing them. I'd walked to the rear of the trailer. My hands had fumbled with the lock, with the seal. The door had swung open slowly, revealing darkness deeper than the absence of light, darkness that felt thick, substantial, like I could touch it. And then the lights inside had turned on. The cargo was still there, wrapped pallets, frozen meat. But also standing among the pallets were 17 figures made of the meat, assembled from the parts, animated by something that wasn't life but wasn't death either. They'd stood perfectly still, watching me with borrowed eyes, smiling with stitched mouths. "Oh, do you see us?" they'd asked inside my mind. "Oh, yes. Do you understand what we are?" No, but I see you." "Good, you passed, you witnessed without breaking, you're worthy." The figures had moved back, merging with the pallets, becoming indistinguishable from the cargo again. "Close the doors, complete the delivery, forget what you've seen, and maybe we'll let you haul us again someday." I'd closed the doors with shaking hands, locked them, sealed them, climbed back into my cab, continued driving toward Pittsburgh, toward the meat processing facility, toward the destination where I'd unload the cargo and whatever else was riding inside it. The watching feeling had faded. The heartbeats had slowed back to normal rhythm. The temperature gauge had dropped, falling back to 32 degrees, properly frozen again. But I knew they were still there, still aware, still monitoring me. I'd arrived at the processing facility 2 days later ahead of schedule. Workers had unloaded the pallets with forklifts, moving them into the building. Standard procedure, professional, clean. I'd collected my paperwork, my proof of delivery, and left. I'd tried to forget, tried to move on. Hauled other cargo, other routes, telling myself it had been hallucination, stress, sleep deprivation. But 3 weeks later, I'd picked up another load, refrigerated trailer, frozen meat, different warehouse, different destination. And as soon as I'd pulled away from the dock, the temperature gauge had started climbing. The heartbeats had started, the watching had begun. Hello again, Jennifer Hayes, the voices had said. We told you we might ride with you again. You're one of our favorite drivers now, one of the few who can witness us without braking. So we'll keep choosing you, keep riding with you, keep watching you through the walls. That was 7 months ago. I've hauled them 16 times since then. Different origins, different destinations, always refrigerated trailers, always meat, always the same passengers hiding inside the cargo. I don't open the doors anymore, don't try to confirm what's real, just drive, just deliver. Just accept that I'm part of their network now, part of their transportation system, a willing or unwilling carrier for whatever they are. Other drivers have noticed. They avoid me at truck stops like I'm contaminated, cursed. Maybe I am. Maybe the passengers have left something in me, some mark or scent or signature that others can sense even if they don't understand it. Last week I picked up another load. Temperature climbed immediately, heartbeats started. But this time the voices said something new. You've served well, Jennifer Hayes. 17 deliveries, perfect record. We think it's time to reward you, time to show you where we're really going, where all this meat is really delivered. The processing facilities are just waypoints. The real destination is deeper, underground, where we're building something, where we're creating something, and we think you're ready to see it. I don't want to see it, I'd said. Too late, you're already driving there. The GPS coordinates are programmed, the route is set. And when you arrive, you'll unload us like always. But this time you'll walk inside, you'll see the construction. You'll understand what we're building from all this meat, all these bodies, all this borrowed flesh. And if I refuse, then we'll take you now, we'll wear you, Wells. They'll add you to the cargo, your choice. Witness willingly or become part of what you're witnessing. So I'm driving there now, following GPS coordinates that don't appear on any map, heading toward a facility that doesn't have an address, doesn't have a name. The voices are singing in my head, harmonizing, celebrating. You'll see soon, you'll understand, and then you'll decide. Join us in the construction, become part of what we're building. Or walk away and forget and spend the rest of your life knowing you saw something that shouldn't exist, something that's growing beneath the highways, something that's almost ready to rise. Well, the GPS shows 2 miles remaining. The heartbeats are faster now. The watching is everywhere. And I don't think I'm leaving this delivery. I don't think anyone does. Story 9, The Highway That Eats Direction. My compass spun 360 degrees in 4 seconds flat on Highway 50 through Nevada. And when I stopped to check my position, the sun rose in the west and set in the east. And the stars spelled words in constellations that don't exist. And the mile markers counted backwards, then sideways, then in prime numbers only. And when I radioed for help, my own voice answered from tomorrow, saying I'd been driving in circles through dimensions where north means nothing and forward means everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Kevin Ortiz, 29 years old, relatively new to trucking with only 4 years experience, hauling for Western Freight Alliance. And I'd been so confident that morning, so sure of my route, Sacramento to Denver, straight shot across Nevada on Highway 50, the loneliest road in America but also the fastest, the most direct. 12 hours if I maintained speed, if I didn't hit delays, if the road stayed predictable. But the road stopped being predictable at mile marker 87 when I noticed the sun was in the wrong place, sitting low on the western horizon when it should have been high and eastward at 10:47 a.m. I'd rubbed my eyes, thinking fatigue, thinking I'd miscalculated time zones. But my watch still showed 10:47 and my phone confirmed it and my dashboard clock agreed. The sun was wrong. Then my compass had started spinning. I kept one mounted on my dashboard, old-fashioned magnetic compass, backup navigation for when electronics failed. The needle had always pointed reliably north, steady, constant. But now it whirled like a fan blade, rotating continuously, unable to find magnetic north, unable to settle on any direction. I'd pulled over, hands shaking, trying to rationalize what I was seeing. Solar flares maybe, magnetic anomaly, some natural phenomenon that disrupted navigation equipment, but the sun shouldn't move. The sun's position was fixed by planetary rotation, by physics, by laws that didn't break. I'd climbed out of the cab, looked up at the sky. The sun was definitely in the west where it should be at sunset, not mid-morning. And as I watched, it moved visibly, sinking toward the horizon, too fast, unnatural speed. 10 minutes later, it set completely and stars emerged. At 11 a.m. in full daylight that somehow coexisted with complete darkness. The stars were wrong too. I'd grown up camping, knew basic constellations, could find Orion and the Big Dipper and Cassiopeia. But these patterns were alien, unfamiliar. And worse, they were moving, rearranging themselves, and I realized with creeping horror that they weren't random. They were forming letters, words, messages. Kevinortiz, the stars spelled out. You are driving through fractured navigation. Direction has broken. Return is impossible. Continue or remain. Choose now. I'd run back to my truck, heart hammering, climbed into the cab and locked the doors like stars could somehow get inside. My GPS showed my position as a blinking dot surrounded by static, no roads, no landmarks, just corrupted data. My phone had no signal. My CB radio produced only a sound like wind through impossible architecture. I'd started driving again because staying seemed worse than moving. The highway stretched ahead perfectly straight, but I had no idea what direction I was actually traveling. My compass continued spinning. The sun rose again minutes later from the northern horizon, this time moved in an arc overhead and set in the south. The day and night cycled rapidly, every few minutes sun and moon and stars taking turns, none of them following proper paths, none of them making sense. The mile markers became strange. Mile 87, then 86, counting backwards, then mile -3, then mile square root of 17, then symbols I didn't recognize, mathematical notation, equations, concepts that had no business being on highway signs. I saw another truck ahead of me, first vehicle I'd encountered since the navigation broke. I'd accelerated to catch up, desperate for human contact, for confirmation that I wasn't hallucinating. The truck was older, 1980s model Kenworth pulling a livestock trailer. I'd pulled alongside, tried to wave at the driver. He'd looked at me. His face was inside out, features reversed, eyes where his mouth should be, mouth where his forehead should be. He'd smiled with eyes and blinked with teeth and waved with an arm that bent in 7 places. I jerked my wheel right, swerving away, nearly losing control. When I'd looked back, the truck was gone, simply not there anymore, vanished between one glance and the next. My CB radio crackled. My voice came through. Kevin, this is Kevin. If you're receiving this, you're approximately 17 hours into your future relative to when I'm broadcasting. The navigation fracture gets worse. Direction becomes meaningless. You'll start seeing roads that branch in impossible ways, highways that loop through themselves, intersections with too many angles. Don't trust your eyes. Don't trust your instruments. Don't trust your sense of forward or backward. Just maintain speed and hope you eventually punch through to the other side. Who is this? I demanded. How are you doing this? I'm you 17 hours ahead, or 17 hours behind. Time is fractured too, not just space. We're driving through a section of highway where dimensionality collapsed, where the normal 3-dimensional plus time structure broke down. Multiple directions exist simultaneously. Multiple times overlap. You'll see versions of yourself driving past, going different directions, existing at different moments. Some of them make it through, some don't. I don't know which category I'm in yet. The road ahead split into 3 branches, all identical, all heading in directions my brain couldn't process. Not left or right or straight, but other directions, perpendicular to reality, extending into spaces that shouldn't exist. I'd chosen the middle branch because it looked most similar to the original highway. I'd been wrong. The road curved in ways that hurt to perceive, bending through more than 3 dimensions, and suddenly I was driving on the underside of the highway, wheels on the ceiling, gravity reversed, but I didn't fall. The truck just kept moving, tires gripping inverted asphalt, my cargo hanging above my head instead of below. Other trucks appeared, dozens of them, all driving on different surfaces of the road simultaneously. Some on top, some underneath, some on the sides, all orientations mixed together. I saw myself in 3 of them, different versions, different moments. One was younger, maybe a year ago. One was older, scarred and damaged. One was skeletal, long dead, still driving. You're seeing the multipath, my future voice explained through the CB. When navigation breaks, roads split into every direction they could have gone. You're driving all of them simultaneously, experiencing every possible route at once. Your consciousness is spreading across parallel highways, parallel decisions. How do I get back? I'd screamed. How do I return to normal roads? You don't. There's no back. Back is a direction, and direction doesn't exist here. You can only go through, drive until the fracture heals, until space repairs itself, until you emerge somewhere. Might be where you intended, might be somewhere else, might be nowhere that exists on maps. I'd driven for hours or maybe minutes. Time was broken too. The landscape outside kept changing, cycling through environments that shouldn't be adjacent. Desert, then ocean, then mountains, then cities that were upside down, then forests made of metal, then nothing, void, absolute absence of matter. The highway remained constant, the only stable element, a thread of asphalt running through chaos. I'd passed a sign that read, "Now leaving reality, please drive carefully in adjacent dimensions." More trucks appeared, convoy forming around me, all driven by versions of myself from different times, different possibilities. We were driving in formation through impossible space, all trying to find the exit, the return point, the place where navigation would work again. One by one, they vanished. The youngest version first, winking out like he'd never been there. then the oldest, then the skeletal version crumbling to dust that blew away in wind from wrong directions. Eventually, I was alone again, just me and the highway and the spinning compass. My fuel gauge showed impossible readings. Full, then empty, then negative, then infinity. But the engine never stopped, never faltered, running on something other than diesel burning possibilities instead of petroleum. I saw things in the landscape that made my brain hurt. Structures that existed in more dimensions than I could perceive, casting shadows that moved independently, creating sounds that had colors and colors that had textures. I saw creatures or maybe vehicles or maybe something that was both, moving on legs that were also wheels, watching with sensors that were also eyes. The CB spoke again, different voice this time, not mine. Mechanical, artificial, coming from the highway itself. Driver Kevin Ortiz, you have been traveling through navigational collapse for 11 hours standard time, 173 hours subjective time. Your route has fragmented across 47 parallel highways. Your consciousness has divided among 17 simultaneous vehicles. Consolidation is required for exit, surrender individual identity, accept merger. Become singular through multiplicity. Well, what does that mean? I'd asked. You must choose which version of yourself survives, which timeline continues. The others will collapse, cease to exist, their experiences and memories absorbed by the prime version. Choose now or choice will be made randomly. In my mirrors, I saw them again. All the other versions of me driving identical trucks, all converging on the same point. We were on collision course, all 17 trucks heading toward the same spot on the highway, about to crash, about to merge. Choose, the highway demanded. But I didn't know how to choose. They were all me, all equally valid. All had experienced different versions of the same nightmare, all had survived different branches of the fractured navigation. How could I decide which one deserved to continue? The collision happened at 90 miles per hour. 17 trucks occupying the same space simultaneously. Metal phasing through metal, cabs overlapping, bodies superimposing. I felt the impact and didn't feel it. Felt myself dying and surviving. Felt 17 different outcomes simultaneously. And then singularity. Consolidation. One truck, one driver. One Kevin Ortiz, but containing memories from all 17 versions, experiences layered and compressed, consciousness expanded to hold multiple timelines. As I remembered dying in 6 of the crashes, remembered surviving in 11, remembered becoming something else in 3. All of it real, all of it happened, all of it now part of me. As the highway straightened, the compass stopped spinning, needle settling on north, proper north, magnetic north. The sun appeared in the east where it should be at sunrise. The mile markers showed sequential numbers again, counting forward normally. I was back in reality, back in functional navigation, back where direction meant something. My GPS flickered on, showing my position. I was still on Highway 50, but 700 miles from where I'd been when the fracture started. I'd jumped forward, skipped across space, emerged at a different point. My clock showed 3 days had passed. 3 days I'd been driving through broken navigation, through fractured dimensions, through the places between proper directions. I continued to Denver, completed my delivery, collected my payment. Tried to explain to my dispatcher why I was late, why my route logs showed impossible distances. She didn't believe me, marked it as equipment malfunction, docked my pay. That was 8 months ago. I still drive Highway 50 running the same route Sacramento to Denver. Sometimes it's normal, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the compass starts spinning and I know I'm about to slip into fractured navigation again, into the spaces where direction breaks down. And sometimes I see other versions of myself driving past on roads that exist perpendicular to mine in timelines that branched differently. They wave. I wave back. We're all Kevin Ortiz, all driving through navigation collapse, all trying to find our way back to singular reality. But I don't think singular reality exists anymore. I think I'm always in multiple places, multiple directions, spread across parallel highways, divided among fractured dimensions. The merger put me back together, but the cracks are still there, and every time I drive Highway 50, they widen a little more. Last week, my compass started spinning in my apartment, not in the truck. In my bedroom, sitting on my nightstand, spinning continuously. The direction is breaking in my daily life now, not just on the highway. North is becoming meaningless everywhere. Forward and backward are losing definition. As I think the fracture followed me home. Or maybe I never left it. Maybe I'm still driving through broken navigation, and what I think is normal life is just another branch, another parallel, another impossible direction in highway that leads everywhere and nowhere. Well, the compass spins. Well, the sun rises in the west. And I keep driving because stopping means admitting I'm lost. And I've been lost for 8 months. I've been lost forever. Story 10, the toll booth that takes more than money. The toll booth appeared at 2:37 a.m. on I-476 in Pennsylvania where no toll booth should exist. And when I stopped, the attendant asked for payment in memories instead of currency, said I could trade 17 happy moments for passage or one traumatic event for expedited processing. And when I refused, he smiled with gray teeth and explained that refusal was also a transaction, that hesitation had value, that my current indecision was already being collected as partial payment whether I consented or not. Lisa Chen, 46 years old, independent contractor hauling specialized freight, 19 years on the road with absolutely spotless record, and I knew every toll plaza on I-476 had exact change ready, had EZ Pass for automated lanes. But this toll booth wasn't on any map, wasn't part of the normal infrastructure, appeared like it had always been there, but I'd somehow never noticed until tonight. The approach was wrong. The highway narrowed from 3 lanes to 1, forcing me to stop, no bypass option, no way to avoid it. Orange cones channeled all traffic toward a single booth, old-fashioned manual collection, no automated gates, no camera recognition, just one attendant in a booth that looked decades out of date, like it had been transplanted from 1960 and left to decay slowly. I'd rolled to a stop, window down, preparing to hand over cash. The attendant was thin, unusually thin, wearing a uniform that might have been Pennsylvania Turnpike Authority, but the colors were wrong, faded, and the logo was slightly off, familiar but incorrect. "Good evening," he'd said. His voice sounded like old paper tearing. "Toll payment required. Standard rate is 17 memories, happy classification, minimum emotional weight 3.5 on the Hendricks scale. Or we accept one memory, traumatic classification, minimum weight 8.0. Also accepting incremental emotions, ambient thoughts, or existential concerns at premium exchange rates." I'd laughed thinking it was a joke, some weird late-night humor. "I have cash, how much for passage?" Cash is not accepted. Currency has no value here. We deal exclusively in experiential capital. Thoughts, feelings, memories, moments of consciousness that carry emotional weight. You must have thousands stored. Most drivers do. Accumulated over years of driving, years of living. We take a small percentage. You'll barely notice the absence. This is insane. Open the gate. Let me through. Gate will not open without payment. You can sit here indefinitely or you can pay. Those are your options. Well, third option is reversal, turning around, going back. But the road behind you has already closed. Check your mirrors. I'd looked, he was right. The highway behind my truck had vanished, replaced by darkness so complete it looked solid like a wall of void. No road, no escape route, only forward through the toll booths. What happens if I try to drive through without paying? I'd asked. A collision with barrier, injury or death, followed by forced extraction of payment from your dying consciousness, which tends to release memories uncontrollably, flooding out as the brain fails. Wasteful, messy. We prefer cooperative transactions. My hands had tightened on the wheel. This couldn't be real. This had to be hallucination, fatigue, carbon monoxide poisoning. But it felt real, looked real, sounded real with perfect clarity. How do I pay with memories? I'd asked, hoping to buy time, hoping to find a way out. You simply consent. I'll reach into your mind, select appropriate memories based on emotional weight and classification, extract them cleanly. You'll feel brief disorientation, like forgetting why you walked into a room, and then the transaction completes. You drive through, gate opens, highway resumes normally. And I lose memories permanently. Define permanently. The memories still occurred. They still shaped who you are. You simply won't be able to access them consciously anymore. They'll become background history without specifics, emotional foundation without explicit recall. Most people never notice. The mind fills gaps, invents substitutes, creates false memories to replace missing ones. Very efficient system. I'd tried my phone, no signal, tried the CB. Static. Tried reversing my truck, but the transmission wouldn't engage, like the gears had locked in forward only. I'll choose happy memories, I decided. 17 of them, get this over with. An excellent choice, please relax, this may feel unusual. The attendant had reached through my window, hand extending impossibly far, fingers touching my forehead. Cold, sudden intense cold, like my skull had been filled with ice water. Then the sensation of losing something, of having portions of my mind simply deleted, carved out cleanly. I'd gasped, tried to pull away, but the attendant held firm. Memory 1 extracted, he'd said. Birthday party age 7, receiving bicycle, emotional weight 4.2. Memory 2 extracted, first kiss age 16, emotional weight 5.1. Memory 3 extracted, college graduation, emotional weight 3.9. He'd continued, narrating each extraction, and I'd felt them disappearing. Events that I'd known happened but could no longer recall. Specifically, I knew I'd had a 7th birthday, knew I'd received gifts, but the actual moment was gone, replaced by vague knowledge without sensory detail. Memory 17 extracted. Daughter's first words, emotional weight 9.3, premium quality exceeds requirement, transaction complete, passage granted. He'd withdrawn his hand, the gate had lifted. I'd driven through in shock, numb, barely able to process what had just happened. The highway had resumed normally, 3 lanes, proper lighting, traffic sparse but present, everything ordinary. But 17 moments were gone. 17 pieces of my life that I couldn't access anymore. I'd tried to remember my daughter's first words, tried to recall that moment, but there was just blank space where the memory should be, a hole that hurt to examine. I'd pulled over at the next rest area, sat shaking, trying to assess what I'd lost. Some memories were clearly gone, specific events that I knew should be accessible but weren't. Others were subtly affected, like the emotional weight had been removed but the factual information remained. I knew I'd graduated college, but I didn't feel anything about it anymore, couldn't remember the joy or pride or relief. I'd called my daughter Jessica, needing to hear her voice. "Hey mom, what's wrong? It's 3 in the morning." Jessica, when did you start talking? What were your first words? I don't know. Does anyone remember that specifically? Why are you asking? I can't remember. I should remember, but I can't. Moms, you sound weird. Are you okay? Should you be driving? I'd assured her I was fine, hung up, sat in the parking lot until sunrise. Then I'd continued my route, delivered my cargo, tried to continue normal life. But 2 weeks later, driving the same route, I-476 through Pennsylvania, the toll booth appeared again. Same location, same attendant, same impossible transaction requirement. Welcome back, Lisa Chen. Toll payment required. Your previous payment was satisfactory, but this passage requires new memories. Standard rates apply. No, I already paid 2 weeks ago. That was for that passage. This is a different passage. Each time you drive this route, toll is required. You must pay every time or find alternate route. There is no alternate route. I-476 is the only reasonable way through this section. Then you must pay repeatedly, every time. This is a toll road. Toll roads require payment. He'd smiled, showing those gray teeth again. Consider it subscription service, regular payments for regular access. I'd paid again. 17 more happy memories, extracted efficiently, leaving more holes in my history. This time I'd lost memories of my wedding, of vacations, of achievements and celebrations. Events I knew happened but could no longer experience mentally. It happened every time after that. Every trip through Pennsylvania on I-476, the toll booth appeared, demanded payment, took pieces of my life. I tried alternate routes, but they added hours to my trips, cost me contracts, destroyed my efficiency. I tried driving during different hours, but time didn't matter. The toll booth appeared whenever I approached, day or night. After 3 months, I'd switched to paying with traumatic memories instead. They were more efficient, one memory instead of 17, faster transaction. I'd paid with the memory of my father's death, with a car accident I'd witnessed, with the time I'd been assaulted in a truck stop parking lot. Each extraction hurt more than the happy memories, felt like ripping out pieces of my soul rather than just erasing pleasant moments. But I'd run out of sufficiently traumatic memories eventually. The attendant had become frustrated, said my available inventory was depleted, said I needed to generate new emotional experiences or increase payment quantities. I don't have anything left, I'd said. You've taken everything, 27 transactions, hundreds of memories, there's almost nothing left. There's always something left. Ambient emotions, current thoughts, existential concerns. We can extract those, though the rates are less favorable. 100 ambient moments per passage. Or we can begin taking future memories, extracting them before they form, preventing you from creating new experiences. How is that even possible? We reach forward in time, identify moments that will have high emotional weight and remove them preemptively. You'll live through events but not register them emotionally. Your daughter's wedding, for instance. You'll attend, you'll be present physically, but you won't form memories, won't feel anything about it. We take the experience before it becomes encoded in your consciousness. I'd started crying. Please, there has to be another way. There has to be some form of payment you'll accept. There is one alternative, permanent transaction. Instead of recurring payments, you can surrender yourself entire. Lie, become part of the toll booth, join the system. You'll collect payments from other drivers forever, and in exchange, we'll stop extracting from you. You'll keep whatever memories you have left. They'll be frozen, preserved, unchanging. You'll exist in this moment eternally, collecting toll from others, never aging, never dying, never moving forward. No, absolutely not. Then continue paying every trip, every passage, until nothing remains. Until you're hollow, empty, a body without history, a mind without context. Eventually, you won't remember who you are, won't remember why you drive, won't remember anything except the road and the toll booth and the transaction. That conversation was 4 months ago. I've paid 39 times since then. I'm running on fumes, barely any memories left. I know I have a daughter but can't remember her name most days. I know I've been driving for years but can't recall specific routes or deliveries. I know I used to have a life, relationships, experiences, but they're all gone now, traded for passage through one section of highway. Other drivers must use this route. They must encounter the toll booth. But when I try to warn them, try to tell other truckers about the memory toll, they look at me like I'm insane. Maybe they've already paid and forgotten. Maybe the toll booth only appears for certain drivers. Maybe I'm the only one who sees it because I'm the only one who has what it wants. Tonight I'm approaching I-476 again. Another delivery, another passage required, and I don't have 17 happy memories left, don't have one traumatic memory left. Just ambient thoughts, scattered emotions, the bare minimum consciousness required to drive. The attendant will take it all tonight, will extract every remaining fragment, and then I'll be empty, a body piloting a truck without any understanding of why or how or who I am. Or I'll accept the alternative, join the toll booth, become an attendant myself, spend eternity in that booth, collecting memories from other drivers, watching them hollow out like I hollowed out. The toll booth is ahead now, I can see it in my headlights, gate closed, attendant waiting. I'm slowing down, stopping, rolling down my window. Good evening, Lisa Chen, he says. Final transaction. You have insufficient inventory for passage. Payment must be completed through alternative means. Do you accept permanent position as collection agent? As I look at him, at the gray teeth, at the faded uniform, at the empty eyes that have collected countless memories from countless drivers. If I say yes, do I keep what's left? Do I remember my daughter's name? Well, you keep what remains, fixed, permanent, unchanging, forever. I think about Jessica, about the daughter whose first words I no longer remember, whose wedding I won't experience emotionally, whose name I'm already forgetting. At least if I stop now, I'll preserve what fragments remain. Oh yes, I say, I accept. The attendant smiles, genuinely pleased. Excellent, exit your vehicle, enter the booth. Your shift begins immediately. Your first customer approaches. As I climb down from my truck, walk toward the booth. Behind me, I hear an engine, another truck arriving, another driver about to encounter the toll booth for the first time. As I take my place in the booth, the uniform appears on my body automatically, faded and wrong, Pennsylvania Turnpike Authority, but incorrect. As the next truck stops, the driver rolls down her window. Young woman, maybe 30. Good evening, I hear myself say in that paper-tearing voice. Toll payment required. Standard rate is 17 memories. Happy classification. Minimum emotional weight 3.5 on the Hendrix scale. And I'll say these words forever. Collecting toll from every driver who passes. Taking memories I'll never experience. Hollowing out others like I was hollowed out. The toll booth that takes more than money. Well, it takes everything. And now I'm part of it. Forever.